Okay, sorry about that. A few minutes late. Had to take care of a few things. It's also one of those things where, for some strange reason, and I don't know if you heard that little beep. I don't know who it was, but there's just like this rule in YouTube, or at least an axiom or a rule of thumb that whenever you plan to go live, that's when everybody starts messaging you, regardless whether they know you're going live or not. I mean, they don't know, but I tell you, it's without question. Almost every single time I go live, I get a ton of messages. Now, obviously, I keep getting messages from Cheshire because I talk to her every damn day, and it's probably her messaging me. But I was talking to her, and then I got all these other messages from other people, and it's just like, okay, I gotta go stream. And then I forgot to put it on Twitter, so my apologies. As you guys, well, let me see what she wants first. Hi, Chesh. Oh my goodness, I'm not looking through all that. Good grief. You want to come on in and talk about that? The link is in the video description. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's in the I pinned it to the top of the live chat. So yeah, if you want to talk about that, Jesh, by all means, this is open. Anybody can come in. This is, if you haven't noticed, I am using a new StreamYards thanks to RNGD Gaming. So thank you, Paul, for that. He has given me the second seat for that, and I haven't played around with it much, but I am trying to dual stream. So I am streaming not to just my YouTube channel or one of my YouTube channels, but I'm also streaming to Facebook. Yes, I don't know. Am I checking that? Let me check Facebook. I have no idea how that works. Am I even doing that on Facebook? Let's see. Do I need to do anything special on Facebook? I don't know how that really works. It says it's live now. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. It actually does work. Wow. That is pretty cool. So I am able to dual stream for right now. Interesting. So yeah, thank you, Paul, for that. I think it's actually be advantageous to have this particular StreamYards. One, it allows more participants in the Hangout. Before it's 6, and now it's 10. It allows you to customize a little bit more. Allows you obviously to dual stream, and I think the authentication process is a little bit better too. I'm able to put the stream link out there, and if trolls try to come in, they just get blocked. They have to authenticate themselves as well. So there's a security thing there. So I'm not too worried about it. Hey, out there, look at all those people out there. We got Rez. Hi, my friend. We got Hereticals. Good morning. We got Claire. We got Peter. Wow, we got the usual crowd. So hopefully this will be a little interesting discussion. Obviously, this is something we've talked about before, but it keeps kind of coming around. I want to make it very clear. This is not to bash on anybody. Matter of fact, this is not even to say anything negative about Matt Dillahunty, because in this particular instance, I'm actually agreeing with him. So any atheists that are coming over here to go, oh, look, Steve's bashing on Matt again, you've already completely 180 missed what this is going to be about, because I'm actually supporting that on this particular issue. And it is very divisive, but we're not going to be talking about the specifics, I guess, of those topics, because this is not the hangout for that. This is a Sunday. I'm trying to get away from some of the drama-related content that's out there right now. That doesn't mean that it's drama. People say Steve has drama on his channel. Whatever, I don't care, but drama-related. So this is more of what I usually kind of do, relating to philosophy and atheism, agnosticism, stuff like that. But this is something that keeps coming around all the freaking time. And it kind of does relate a little bit to some of the drama-related content that we experience in our own communities, only because of the fact that I think that people keep on using these terms as weapons. They keep on using terms like transphobia, bigotry, homophobia as weapons against their opponent. And it's just got to stop. Matter of fact, we will deal with that at an appropriate forum, at an appropriate time, with the appropriate panel soon. So it won't be today, obviously, but we are going to address certain things, because I've got a lot of content creators that I've been speaking with, and they all seem to be on the same page that using these terms weapons, and people are not understanding that these terms have effects. They are negative connotations. They're used as pejoratives and invectives and slurs, and by doing that, you kind of recuse yourself from the conversation. And we want to show people that we can have a high-level conversation and not get into those kind of things. If people haven't noticed, I don't go around calling people these things unless I actually believe that they are those things. I don't use them as weapons. I mean, there are people out there that have these traits, that are homophobic, that are transphobic, that are bigots, that are racist. Of course they exist. We know they exist. I'm going to be showing you some comments that I think that are coming up here. But when they start using them in just a way to attack a creator or attack somebody and character assassinate them, that to me is just unconscionable. Matter of fact, again, you don't see me go around doing that to people. It just doesn't happen. So I want content creators maybe to have a takeaway from that. And by the way, the content creators I associate with don't do that. And if they do, I will get on them. I have called out a few content creators that, I tend to watch their stuff, but I think if they cross the line, I'll say something, but I try to do it politely. And most of the time I go to them first, right? I try to do things publicly to see if they'll kind of listen. And if they don't, that's fine too. But I've had content creators come to me and ask me for my opinions. And I appreciate that. Some have listened, some don't, and they don't have to. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop talking to them. Doesn't mean I'm going to befriend them. It just means that I just don't go around their channels. But I get along with a lot more content creators than people realize. And a lot of people have tried to affect those relationships, and they just have had no luck because they don't know the extent of how much I actually care about certain people. And it just kind of backfires. The audio, I don't have any filters on right now. I apologize. I had to mute a couple fans on my computer that were making some noise or have been making some noise. I'm gonna have to replace them eventually, but I don't have my usual audio setup because I am trying StreamYards or new StreamYards. So I don't have any filters. I don't have vMix. I don't have not vMix. I'm sorry. I don't have a Banana, Voice Meter Banana or anything like that. So if my audio is a little bit all over the place, I do apologize. Eventually I will probably try to fix that. But anyways, let's kind of dive into this. And again, if you want to come in, by all means, the link is in the above. Please join the discussion. As I said, you have to be obviously authenticated and vetted, and I have to know who you are to join at this point because, again, I just have to take that safety precaution. But to kind of give people a backstory that kind of leads into a lot of this stuff, back when, I think it was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, Rationality Rules had put out a video relating to trans women in sports. And, of course, with the infamous Jamie, president of the ACA at the time, used the infamous word kerfluffle to kind of describe it. And I think that was a very appropriate term. And it stuck. And that was brilliant. I wish I would have thought of it. I'm actually a little upset that he used that term and it kind of stuck. And I didn't think of it at first. But no, all props to him. So, Jesh.
Oh, okay, Jesh. I see how you are.
I see how you are, Chesh. Eventually, I'll fix it. Looks awkwardly at his opening. There still has no audio. Yeah, I get it. Dude, I am like the worst procrastinator on that stuff. What do you think I have you and other people for? I'm serious. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. I know my limitations. I know my skill sets. I'm pretty well aware of certain things that I suck at. And finding music for my intro sucks. I've tried. I really did. And it just, every time it comes over the content ID match.
Chris says,
it feels like it's been at least 2 days since someone told me I haven't should have anything to do with Steve McRae. And that's been over what, a period of 2 years?
So,
look who decided to join us. I think we have an actual bona fide, real, I guess, what's the word? Authentic atheist in the house?
Well, no, I'm not a rock.
But, oh, you're muted, though. And that's not on my end.
Oh, am I? No,
you sure? Nope, you're not muted.
I'm not muted.
Can you guys hear him?
What am I doing wrong here? Someone help me.
I don't know. It's
I can't hear him. Can you guys hear him?
Making noise. No.
He is not muted on this end.
If he did, it would have a little mute symbol. It would look like this. See, mute, unmute. So he's not muted.
Can you hear me
now?
now?
Let me know if you guys can hear Chris.
Can anyone hear me? Wait. See, everyone can hear me. That's
Chris.
good.
Okay, let me see here.
This is good. I
can
take over the show now.
It is on my end. I apologize.
The Steve issue.
One sec.
I can say nasty things about Steve and he won't even know. This is great.
Oh, and I just unmuted everything. One sec. Okay, one sec. Yeah. Hang on. I got all these different things now that I unmuted that. Okay. Fixed. Whew. Testing audio. Should be no.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
me? Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah. Hi there, Mr. Authentic Atheist from down there.
The technology does work. As I was saying, no, I'm not really an atheist because I'm not actually a rock.
True. I mean, you're smarter than a rock. I mean, not that it's that high of a bar, but you're smarter than a rock.
Well, slightly, maybe. Allegedly.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. People have warned you against me. That
didn't seem to really work out too well. Why is that icon thing all messed up for me now? Do you see that on the screen? So, what's going on here?
I don't know. What have you done?
I don't know, but I look like a white dot for some reason.
Well, actually, no. See, you look like a white dot before, but now you look like I can actually see your image and. I can see your image here in the background, but
right. But on the live stream, it's a white avatar for some reason.
I don't know. It looks like you've broken the internet.
I tell you, well, like I said, I'm using a new StreamYard, so I'm gonna blame that. I'm going to blame that.
Okay.
And I have no idea how to fix that. So forget it. I don't care what the hell. People can look at whatever. They can look at you.
Blame the technology, not the user, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah, that works. That's good.
So, by the way, that has, that admonishment people have given people seem to have not worked out for a lot of people too well.
No. It tends not to. It's look, every few weeks I'll get someone say, "Oh, you shouldn't have anything to do with Steve. He's problematic." But I mean, look, these people are the same people that warn people off me because I'm apparently problematic because I don't go with the whole, the Kool-Aid agenda.
That's true. And that, by the way, that is actually one of the reasons I do associate with you. I like the fact you kind of go against the grain and you're not afraid to state your opinion, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's what we want in the community. We don't have to agree with each other on people. This is what people don't understand. People don't have to agree on the issues. What they have to be able to do is discuss them and then go away accepting that the other person has not agreed with you and not be butthurt. Because I think a lot of people are so freaking emotional that they get so butthurt if somebody doesn't agree with them, that those are the kind of volatile and mercurial and capricious people that I just do not want to have any association with. And this is why I stopped associating with a lot of those people. And they all ran over to, Uni Rock and other people to try to console each other because Steve's a bad man.
Yes, Steve is a very, very nasty person who's very, very horrible. You've only ever been nothing but horrible to me, of course, as I tell people all the time. But look, it's, you know what, I left religion because I got sick of people with groupthink. In fact, the whole groupthink in religion was what kind of triggered my brain to sort of go, let's actually look at this with an open mind and let's look at what things actually say. And it started my process. I didn't leave that just so I could get involved in another religion, which is what it is for a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now let me clarify here. I absolutely do not think atheism is religion. Never have, never will. I have videos against that. However, there is religiosity involved.
Absolutely. I mean, there's religiosity in everything. It's unfortunately we've still got that cave mentality a little bit where we get very tribal. But the issue I find is when you get all these free thinkers, and this is nothing against like the Matt Dillahunties of the world, but you'll get people who basically just repeat his talking points. And if Aaron Ra or Matt Dillahunty or any of those guys say something, it's just people just nod their head and agree without actually saying, well, hang on, do I agree with that? What is it they've said? And actually looking at whatever it is that they're saying. It's people just follow. It's very similar to what people will do in a church where they'll just listen to if the pastor says it must be true and that's it. It's without actually opening their mind and thinking about it. And there's nothing wrong with it's not to say that every take they have is right or wrong, but I think that if people are going to claim to be free thinkers, they actually need to open their mind and think freely.
Wow, I could not agree with that any harder.
With one exception, everyone should agree with me.
Hey, welcome, by the way, Thomas. It's been a while.
Thanks, Steve. So I saw this stream in my recommended, and I just started listening into the first few minutes, and I said, I got to get into this because it's really rich. It's really rich when it comes to Matt Dillahunty. Okay, I know that. I used to look up to Matt Dillahunty. I know a few people have their sympathies with Matt Dillahunty because he's done such a great job in bulking up the atheist experience since 2005. But the problem with Matt Dillahunty is that everybody is now seeing people that are even more woke than he is going after him. This guy, okay, has had a reputation of destroying David Silverman's life. He's had a reputation of allowing Atheism Plus to flood the gates of the atheist community, which has led us to piss away millions of dollars out of 501c3 and 501c4 nonprofits to where our movement has dramatically failed. And most people have now moved on to other things. And now you even have him in 2021 continuing a crusade against none other than Richard Dawkins, his activism and numerous other people's activism, stripping away. It led to people, orgs like AHA, stripping down Dawkins' 1996 Humanist of the Year award. And I think, honestly, we need to adopt.
Oh, did we lose him?
I wasn't sure if it was on my end.
No, that's on his end.
Yeah,
just
as he was getting to what I think could have been a good point as well.
Right, a salient. Yeah, no, I agree. And so far, everything you said so far, I'm agreeing with wholeheartedly. Again, not getting into the specifics of the topics, but I mean, he makes very good points so far about. I think Matt has really squandered away most of the goodwill that he had initially. As a matter of fact, we'll get into some of the names that have left the ACA that really made a big difference.
I'm not sure.
I'll be honest. It's when I see, I do get a little bit of guilty pleasure when I see woke on woke crimes happen.
Yeah.
Because it's they love to eat their own, but it's unfortunately I think the point you might have been trying to make there, Thomas, is right. It's the atheist movement has been heavily politicized, and it's been heavily politicized to one side of politics, and the extreme of one side of politics, and it's a shame because I mean, there's a lot of people who don't sit on the extreme side of politics, who sort of might be a centre left or in the middle or on the right, who are atheists but don't find that they can identify with any group or any organisation within the atheist community, because it feels like if you join, you've got to be an ally for XYZ causes that are generally the crying points of the far left movement.
Yeah, and just before one second before I let you finish your thought there, I want to make sure if this is a Justin I know from Facebook or somewhere else that came in. Hey, Justin. Because I don't recognize the last name.
Is it Justin Vakula?
Yeah, you cool?
I linked him to the stream. So
awesome. Okay,
he's
I trust you.
He's our public relations.
Hello.
Hi.
I'll turn my camera on too. So
How's it going?
I trust you.
So for people that are watching, I'm the president of an organization called Atheists for Liberty. We're an anti-woke atheist org, and then I linked the stream to Justin, who's our PR manager. So for people who don't know, who are these two guys joining in? We're friendly types.
Well, I know you.
We're in a spirit of goodwill. But I saw this. I'm like, I got to chime in, and I linked it to Justin because I know Justin. He pays attention to the topics in these incidents. Like,
wow. What's funny is we haven't even got into what we're going to be talking about yet. Which well,
I think like a history lesson is due. This isn't a new thing. This has been going on for quite a while with Matt Dillahunty, and that's why I'm calling in here to go back to 2012 and some earlier events that really lead up to what we're seeing today.
Preliminaries are great, man. Let Thomas finish where he was going with his thought real quick. Yeah. Man, you were going with a great point on that.
Yeah. So look, my mic chimed out when I was originally making my first statement earlier in the stream. But when it comes to Dillahunty, I think there's a good chunk of non-woke atheists that still have sympathies for Matt Dillahunty. And honestly, I think we got to ditch it, because time and time again, when it comes to people like you, Steve, people like me, people like you, Chris, he has repeatedly severed all ties with normal people in order to continue pursuing a woke agenda. And even when we tell him, look, Steve Shives and people like those in the women organization, they are continuing to go after you because you're not even woke enough, Matt. Matt doesn't even care. Mm-hmm. And he has participated extensively in the downfall of new atheism and the problems that we now see with Chris, exactly what you pointed out, this polarization and this turnoff of normal people from the atheist community.
Yep. Quick question. I am paying attention to the live chat. This is probably going to be a pretty interesting video here. So I'm pay attention to live chat, and then we'll get Justin to weigh in on that, because he has obviously back knowledge of the history, which I know he's going to refer to. But Fred says, what makes you believe that atheism is becoming radically politicized? I'm confused as to where all this is coming from. Well, I think Justin is probably going to answer that question right now.
Yeah, back to 2012. So we're about 10 years ago, Matt Dillahunty got roped into the radical feminist narrative that the atheist community is a dangerous place for women, that women can't attend conferences. There was even one blogger who went so far as to make comparisons between the JREF, James Randi Educational Foundation, amazing meeting, comparing it to Nazi Germany. And then she backtracked a little bit and was like, well, it's not really like that, but it's an environment where women aren't safe. Women are going to be attacked. You have to be afraid of men, and they're out to get you. It was this false fear-mongering campaign, and false allegations were leveled against men, and Matt Dillahunty got roped in on this. And this is 2012. It's a blog post on skepchick.org. People like Surly Amy Davis Roth, Rebecca Watson were inviting men to speak out on the defense of women, that women are being harassed. And Matt Dillahunty says here, thugs are responding with threats of violence and grape, are attempting to silence people, whether threats are literal or figurative. It's harassment and bullying, an attempt to silence current and future objections. And he just totally ditches a reasonable person standard here. He says, when you hear a complaint that someone has raised, you might think they're expressing an irrational, emotional overreaction to the situation. You might even be correct, but it doesn't matter, is what he says. It doesn't matter what the complaints are. If someone levies a complaint, we need to bow down to that and just believe what they're saying. You know, this whole believe all women meme. But some people are irrational. Some people are fear mongering. It's just not the case. So it's too bad that he's ditched this reasonable person standard. He's just taking in the narrative that women are under threat. The atheist community is terrible. These men need to be replaced. They need to be thrown out. It's just really a shame that the people who we thought were promoting the community were very responsible for tearing it down.
Yeah, I think that was called Elevator Gate.
No. This was after that. This was after that.
Okay.
Yeah, this was
I remember the original thing.
Well after that.
I remember Skeptic. Hang on a second. I remember Skeptic, and I remember all that. And what they were doing. I mean, at that point, they started to eliminate a lot of their demographic. I mean, when you start talking about a class of people, which is women, which is half the population, and saying, "Hey, look, stop coming to these atheist events. Stop associating." You're killing your demographic. I mean, if she had legit concerns, that's one thing. But I mean, we've all learned that wasn't the case, and it was fear mongering. And we see it time and time again. And you're right. Matt Dillahunty jumped right onto that. And if you also remember, Richard Carrier did at the time, but he has since changed his position dramatically because it happened to him. Right. And I've had my issues with Richard Carrier, but you know what? We've always maintained a level of professionalism. He's written some blogs about me, and I've talked about him. You know, we don't see eye to eye on some things, but I mean,
He's learned. Carrier, I would say, credit to him, has definitely learned, you know, and processed the mistakes that he made when trying to create and brand Atheism Plus. He saw it bite him back, and I think it's important as well that people on our end of the atheist community forgive those people who have made those mistakes with open arms.
Fully agree with that. And also it's David Silverman, who I never agreed with, you know, on many issues, but I've always maintained a civil rapport with him. He's always been kind to me. And you know, so I have nothing against the guy like that. And he is, you know, obviously it bit him in the ass as well. Real quick, Justar says, I might swing in on this once I'm done eating. I want to see what the guys have to say first. So, you know, nice to get a different perspective in there. So yes, please get some women, you know, in here. So
and you mentioned Elevator Gate. Personally, it wasn't so much my problem with how she said, "Hey guys, don't do that. Hey, you know, maybe it's not the best idea to proposition someone in an elevator," but rather it was the reaction to it after the fact. And when women spoke up and said, "Hey, Rebecca, I think you overreacted. Maybe this isn't as much of a big deal." It wasn't just like, "Okay, well, maybe I'm more sensitive to that than you are." But these women were labeled as gender traitors, sister punishers, parroting misogynistic thought, perpetuating grape culture. I'm trying to be sensitive to the YouTube algorithm here. These women were completely thrown under the bus. And a personal friend of mine was also critical of this, using an anonymous account, and made a joke about PZ Myers having an STD because he had this blog post. And they took it so far as to message her employer, because she works as a doctor, and saying like she's not fit for medicine because she's diagnosing people online and she's a harasser and she's a misogynist and this and that. So they really take it to 11 rather than having this discussion. It's, if you disagree, you're this terrible person who must be cast out. And around the same time too, Thunderfoot was under attack, and there was this list of people who needed to, as they called, get drummed out of the secular community, that you can't have any role, you can't have any activism, where we're not going to talk about you anymore. You're a terrible person because you disagree on these gender politics and related issues.
Well, that was 10 years ago.
What's really sad too is what actually happens is when people do this, it takes away from actual victims. It doesn't allow them to get their story out there, or in a way it almost creates I guess the little boy who cried wolf effect, where, you know, if 100 people are making a claim, the one or two that are legitimate, and you know, sorry, I should rephrase that, because, you know, I don't want to get myself cancelled, you know, again.
Wait, are we all in a group called the Cancelled something or other?
The Cancelled Friends of Six Pack.
Yeah.
Look, I get cancelled at least twice a week, so it's all good. I think I'm uncancelable at this point. But it does take away from people who have actually had genuine experiences that do need to be called out. and you know, it's they get lost in the sea of, I guess, you know, what I would call some pretty loose claims. You know, I think that people try to find offence for the sake of being offence. I think there's almost a culture going where people want to be in a victim category, or sorry, some people want to be in a victim category because that way it puts them in the in crowd. It's a really strange, and look, I guess it's, I can say this a little bit from the outside looking in. It does seem to be very much an American-centric problem.
It is, on the most part.
Yeah, I know. I sit on the right in Australia, which the right and the left are different all around the world. But I know people on the left in Australia who have a look at, and other parts of the world who have a look at, I guess, the equivalent in the US and kind of cringe, because it's become, how would I describe it? It's that the left has moved away from what the left used to be. And it's all become about identity politics. It's all become about who can sort of be the biggest victim at times. It's the actual problems aren't looked at. The actual issues in the world are taken away from, and it's, you know, if you were to look at Twitter and listen to the way, you would think that the most oppressed people in the world live in the United States, which you know, I think that's probably one of the best places
here than ever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if I was going to be if I had to choose where and when I was going to be born in any society, I would absolutely want to be born in a Western country in modern times, because, you know, it's the best time and place to live. You know, I study history. I'm a historian. I look back and have a look at how people used to live, and like, we have got it really, really good. And I say we, I'm talking about Western society in general. So when I see you know, people complaining how tough their life is in the richest country in the history of the world, it does make us all roll our eyes a little bit.
And I will say, it's also not just the United States too. When Richard Dawkins came out with his Dear Muslima letter in 2011 following Elevatorgate, I think he later on apologized, but I think he apologized because he didn't want to get more flack from the woke crowd that has taken over the movement. I think Dawkins was hitting the nail properly with the Dear Muslima letter, saying, like, you know, oh, I'm so sorry, woman in the Middle East who is getting her C word chopped off. I'm trying to also be nice to the YouTube algorithm. I like it very much. I don't want his channel canceled.
Yeah, it's okay. These types of discussions, I think it's appropriate to say what you need to say. Okay. I don't care shit about the algorithm. The discussion is all on my channel.
It rhymes with vigorous.
Yes. It seems like it rhymes with vigorous. I'm so sorry that, you know, that's getting chopped off. But, you know, a woman in an elevator was consensually and politely and professionally asked for a cup of coffee in an elevator. You know, we have real bigotries to deal with in the atheist community. Like, give me a break. And you saw this problem later fester on, where it's not just the issue of woke feminism that perpetuated the atheist movement. This stuff also led to us not being able to criticize Islam properly, not being able to help out ex-Muslims as much within various organizations and nonprofits, which I think have led to other people around the world outside of the United States bad quality of life.
Yeah,
which is awful.
Yeah, it's funny because I just said, you know, to Justin, you know, that was almost 10 years ago, and we see the same things happening day after day, even to this day.
Oh, it's even worse now.
Yeah, I think it is, and it's for the reasons that Thomas said, is because they didn't get addressed then, and people said, "Oh, look, people aren't addressing it," and they realized that what Chris was saying was right. They could use it as victim narratives. They could use it as persecution porn. They could use it for virtue signaling, which they've done. Matter of fact, you know, my co-host, you know, Cheshire, she has been called a traitor to her gender for not agreeing with certain things. It had nothing to do with the topic, had nothing to do with the discussions. It was, oh, you don't agree with me, you are de facto a traitor to your gender. So they still use those same type of hyperbolic things because it works. It does. Matter of fact, I mean, no offense, but I was one of the first people to be canceled from the atheist community. But I'm not even atheist. But
right,
you know, I got canceled by Matt Dillahunty not because he showed me to be wrong, but no, because his excuse was, oh, well, Steve said something on Facebook that I didn't agree with, which he took out of context. Of course, go figure.
Well, hang on, Steve. In Matt's defense, you are a meanie poo head.
I am one of the nicest guys on YouTube. What the hell are you talking about? If you don't agree with me, I will block you. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, here's another thing as well, and I will what was it? I don't mean to make this a plug. This has just come off the top of my head. So I'm not coming on here specifically to do this, but up until 2020, I would say, we have not really had an organization or an entity within the atheist community or within what remains of the atheist community that is willing to rebuild what has been lost, to provide a haven for all these atheists and people in the community who have been canceled throughout the years. In many ways, we've all been afraid because all the organizations that have existed, right, have been propped up, have embraced the social justice narrative, have embraced wokeism to the core. Now we have Atheists for Liberty, which is a nonprofit national org that I lead that has hundreds of members now. Plenty of our members, by the way, and personalities, which include plenty of people over the past 10 years who have been canceled in the atheist community due to wokeness. There's now not only a haven for those people, but we're now building up programs and building up initiatives to fight back. Now, and this is why I also want to jump in the stream, we have to adopt a culture of not giving a crap anymore, not caring what Matt Dillahunty says, not caring what Hemant Mehta says, not caring what PZ Meyer said, or an atheist blogger who's going to report us to his or her feminist friends. Yeah. We have to not care anymore. We don't care what Pathos or Free Thought Blogs puts up about us anymore, or what some feminist BLM whatever activist puts up. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to be successful because we represent the majority of atheists left and right in the United States.
Make sure if you're typing, you're muted.
One
second. If whoever's typing, can you hang on one second? If whoever's typing, it's killing the audio. Mute. I don't know.
It wasn't me, but I
know. I know. I wasn't.
It definitely wasn't me. I can't read or write.
And by the way, I'm well aware of that. The organization. I'm gonna actually have to do a stream on that. Go over some of the charters and stuff like that because what you said was just so right on. That somebody needs to pick up the pieces on that, and you cannot be afraid. I have never been afraid to speak my mind. One thing. Even my detractors probably say, "Hey, Steve's not afraid to say what he thinks." I can't imagine anybody saying that I'm afraid to say what I think. But I've suffered from it. I'm in 2 lawsuits because I'm not afraid to stand up for what's right.
Right. Yeah, and it is very disappointing because many of us have been involved in secular activism in the past. And personally, I was promoted and supported by Hemant Mehta. I had a bus ad lawsuit that went on for years because there was a local transit authority that refused to display a bus that said the word atheist on it, even though they took many from religious advertisements, political officials, local Christian organizations, and I won the lawsuit. Hemant followed it throughout the way, and then all of a sudden it just dropped off. And I messaged him like, "Hey, I'd be happy to be on your show, talk about it. Hey, let's talk about this." And ever since I got involved with Atheists for Liberty, then all of a sudden it was, "Oh, well, we're just not going to do that." And I sent him messages saying, "Hey, Atheists for Liberty is attending CPAC. Hey, we're going to this event." And rather than actually asking questions and responding, he just completely threw us under the bus, made these false claims about us, and just like really, really over the top articles where instead we could have just had a conversation, but he's just not being reasonable about these things anymore. And it's a shame because, yeah, I used to have a lot of respect for him as well. And he still does some good things, but just the bashing of people and the misrepresentation is just ridiculous.
It's a power thing.
One sec. Go ahead, Brandon, then I will say something, then Chris.
Well, I was saying, I think it's a power thing. I don't know. It's like I'm a leader, and whoever disagrees with me, I don't know. I just think it's a power thing.
Yeah, well, it is a power. They're afraid to lose their power. I mean, they're afraid of the ramifications because they're looked at as public figures, or at least in the public. And I get that. I mean, I'm not a public figure, but I am certainly in the public, and my name is recognizable. People have used my name for, drama for how long, but I don't care if I lose, some subscribers because I said something they don't agree with. Those aren't the subscribers I want. I want to build, channels and discussions where people can go, "Hey, look, I totally disagree with Steve. Let's talk about it." Or, I won't watch that episode, or, I'll comment about it later. But Hemant is more woke than Matt. And I used to get along with him just fine, and I still do. We patched things up. I've recently talked to him not too long ago, and there's no issues between him and I. But there was a time where people were telling him false bullshit that he believed. Of course, it dealt with Kyle and things of that nature. But I think he's realized that was all bullshit. And so I have no ill will toward him whatsoever, except I do think that he uses his platform way more effectively than he should, and he's gotten into wokeism to the degree that it has lost all objectivity when it comes to a lot of these topics, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he hasn't followed up on cases either, because he published the allegations against David Silverman, as many other woke bloggers have, and they didn't give Dave's side of the story. Dave came out like a year, maybe several months later, and spoke with Armin Navabi of Atheist Republic and refused to show that interview. And there were other developments, like some court dates that he had where a judge refused to grant a restraining order because the judge thought the claims were unsubstantiated against him on one of the cases. And I've messaged Hemant and said, like, hey, Hemant, are you going to give an update on this story? Are you going to retract any of the things that you said? Like, why is there no update here? What's going on? Why won't you update the story? Why won't you add this information? So it's just a very intentional thing, and it's extremely, extremely disappointing.
Chris, so I want to make two.
That's just one thing.
Yep. Yeah. I was going to make two real quick points, and I just want to address something in the chat as well. So the first point is, if my standard now is, if Hemant Mehta says it, I disbelieve it until I've read it.
Wow.
He's just, he's nothing.
He's lost credibility in your eyes.
I was going to say for Thomas, mate, you should be encouraging all the woke crowd, because that's just going to drive your membership up. They're the best recruiters for you. There's something in the chat. There's something in the chat I do want to address. Just really quickly. Fred asked, who cares if someone uses the term? I won't say it, but 1930s and 40s German person. Look, I'm going to tell you
the white supreme pizzas. You mean?
How could you possibly say that? Not the Germans.
So I do want to address why there is an issue. Look, I study history. The last week in particular, I had to write paper on the certain leader of that organisation. And when you look at what actually happened during that period, it is deeply offensive to compare what's going on in someone's life in modern day society to the 3-year-old girl who got marched and murdered in Auschwitz. That it's deeply offensive to compare your experience to the experience of those people. And frankly, I think it's anti-Semitic, and it's narcissistic. It is absolutely narcissistic. It frustrates the hell out of me, and I see it on both sides, because I'll see people on the right who compare things on the left to Stalin or something like that, and it's just not the case. It's deeply offensive to the victims and their families of what could only be described as the most horrific crime, certainly in modern history, but potentially in all of human history, to compare the experiences of people living in the modern day West. Like, seriously, I mean, it's a joke. That's why it's a problem. And hey, I'm all for freedom of speech, but I'm also all for calling out stupidity.
Yeah, as the token Jewish person on the panel, I fully support that and I speak for my people. It's matter of fact, I mean, it's so egregious that there actually is a fallacy named after that called argumentum ad Hitlerianum. I mean, that's how bad that is. But real quick before we get Cheshire in here, because of course we like a different perspective for somebody who was labeled a gender traitor. Thomas does make a good point. He says, you're right. Atheist organizations should always be atheism secularly focused, atheism first. And let me add on to that. People know I'm not an atheist, but I don't believe in God, but I believe in secularism. I am a huge fan of secularism and separation of church and state. I don't want young earth creation taught in the school system. I don't want religion in the school system. I'm not against parent school if it's done, on somebody's own time and things of that nature, but nothing mandated. I don't want any mandated things. And I want, if religion is able to do certain things, then, atheists should have the same exact abilities. That's what I stand for as well. But I've been excised from the atheist community because I don't agree with how they're pushing it and how they're misleading people on certain things and the logic and, of course, the philosophies and the misuse of the demographics, because what they're trying to do is, try to get demographics for political purposes, which I understand the argument, the ends trying to justify the means a bit on that as far as I understand that they think that is a higher purpose to maybe lie or to manipulate a little bit in order to change things. But I have an ethical consideration against that. But anyways, I think it's weird that I got canceled, even though I'm a staunch ally. Thomas would agree with that. He knows that's for a very long time.
I've been in this movement for years and years and years, probably later than you. I started out in 2013 and then really got involved more in 2015. But I've had positions with American Atheists. I've had positions with FFRF. I've had positions with AHA, Americans United, nearly every single, I got my start with the Secular Student Alliance. I've had nearly every I was affiliated with nearly every single organization, and to see them tanking, to see them going downhill, and then to see them as well in these past 10 years remove many of the people who were instrumental in bulking up these organizations and bulking up these blogs and bulking up these podcasts and conferences. It's just a real shame. And I'm dedicating my career to rebuilding what was lost. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to do so.
Good on you, man. Good on you. And even Brian Sapient, who I have a lot of respect for, he even left a lot of that atheist stuff to go into political stuff. But I'm in his group, and I agree with him on a lot of secular stuff. But he does not want much to do with the atheist stuff any longer. And he was a big part of it back when, if you remember, with the whole rationality. What was it called? The rational response. Was it rational response something or other? Oh man, that was huge.
Squad.
Yeah, rational response squad back in like 2013.
Yep. Yeah, they had the Ray Comfort debate, right?
Brilliant debate. Absolutely brilliant debate. But anyways, Cheshire. We're going to let.
Sorry, really quickly. If Cheshire's here, I'm going to have to leave because I've been warned about her. I've been told she's problematic. I should stay away, and I'm afraid that just by being on a stream with her, I could get cancelled. So a failed deer salesman and a guy who looked like Ned Flanders said something about it.
See, I was going to let the woman speak, and a man had to jump in.
Yeah.
Well, you'll definitely catch cooties, so you might want to look out for that. Make sure you've got your vaccinations, everybody.
All clothes have cooties.
Can't get it twice.
Yeah.
Canadian cooties are the worst.
Right? They smell like maple syrup.
Oh God!
But
I need that image.
I'm I'm supposedly a gender traitor for some reason. But I'm also apparently trans, so I have no idea what those two things mean in conjunction.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because there's some of the things in these tweets that I want to get into because we haven't even got into this stuff yet, which is fine. In regards to
all I heard was that we were talking shit on the current online atheist community, and I was like, "Oh hell yeah, let me in!"
Yeah, come join in.
I gotta tell you, Chess has really jumped on that bus full throttle. I mean, it's so funny because a lot of people were like, "Oh, Steve talks about this stuff all the time," and some people jump off, some people write it for years. But Chess was like, "Oh yeah, shit, this is great." She was like, "Steve's right, by the way," but let me kind of take it in my own direction and do her own thing with it, and I really admire that. So
yeah, there's been a couple of times where I've made videos or talked about specifically Matt Dillahunty when it comes to basically just trying to overtalk. Like, I mean, his whole gimmick, because that's all he is at this point, he's just a gimmick. His whole shtick is that he just yells over people and hangs up on them and dismisses whatever they're saying, no matter who they are. And that starts to become really, really problematic when you're an older white guy doing it to minorities. Right.
right. So, it's a tone deafness there. Absolutely.
Sure. And it's certainly an ego thing. And it's like, it's a trope. Like, it's so much of a trope of like, oh, look at the old white man. He's entitled to say whatever he wants to anybody and nobody can say anything to him. It's like,
Hashtag the hang up. I mean,
I think amazingly here, I'm going to kind of come to Matt's defense on a little bit of that. You are right in what you're saying. I think it's definitely a branding thing with him, but he's got an audience, and certainly that angry atheist audience loves that stuff. I know when I first
have an audience. You could put like a hood on and be like this edgy motherfucker. I sit in the corner. I'm just sitting in a corner brooding with a candle lit.
Absolutely. But I think once you've heard it a million times like we have, I think for people getting into it, it's kind of like it's a little bit of it's a little bit of almost like porn for them. It's like you give it to those nasty religious people I've just left. But I think those are the two of them heard it. It kind of gets repetitive and boring.
Yeah, they burn themselves out on it. No question. I mean, look at my detractors. They've already blew their loads. I mean, all they've done is repeat the same talking points for 5-6 years. I mean, come on.
It's a catharsis thing. Like, if you're particularly, because keep in mind the location of things like the ACA and where it started out. It's Texas.
You know what? I got to tell you though, I never was a fan of Texas, but the last few times I was there, I got to tell you, I really did enjoy it. People were great.
Well, it's not about the people; it's about the political system that's there. Right
that sucks. Now. Yeah, their educational system,
religiosity that's in that particular area. So the ACA
creationism out, and I like it a lot.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. The ACA is specifically a supposed to be a counterpoint to that position. But if you look at a lot of what the ACA does, is it just one, preys on people that feel like they've been hurt or betrayed by religion, or people who are dogmatic in their thinking already, takes them and moves them into another set of dogmatic thinking and another tank of groupthink.
Yeah.
Then they also take advantage of this to try and make political change. If you want to have a movement based on Black Lives Matter, fine. If you want to have a movement based about LGBTQ rights, fine. If you want to have something based on humanism, great. Do those things. Fantastic. You're an atheist organization, though, and your whole you undermine.
I'm loving this.
You undermine your entire point when you go ahead and say, well, we want to take religion and God out of schools or out of political positions by saying believing in no God is what should be there. And it's like, no, you're still adding religious stuff into politics. That if you want to do political movements, do political movements. Stop trying to make it about whether or not somebody does or does not believe in a God or lacks a belief.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, no, exactly. And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. I mean, the atheist community of Austin, as I've always said, isn't really promoting atheism. They're not. They're promoting non-belief, but they're not promoting atheism. They never have.
It's almost been co-opted. It's because the thing is like a religious person can be pro-vax or anti-vax. A religious person can be pro-abortion or not pro-abortion.
Exactly.
A religious person can be pro-education and pro-science or not. We see this all over the place. The same thing applies to atheism. You could have somebody who is a racist atheist. You could have somebody who is a transphobic atheist, because you know what has nothing to do with those things? Whether or not a God exists.
Oh my God, just flip that part out. We're done. Let's go home. Claire says, oh my God, stop making sense, Chess. You're going to break the damn internet. Damn it, Chess. You stop doing that.
Right, so let's kind of dive into this. And yes, I go into incognito mode because, of course, Matt has me blocked because he never wants to address anything that I have to say because he can't. He's been told by many people, hey, Steve's arguments are not invalid. They are logical. They are brutal.
That was something that I saw, because it wasn't just David Silverman they did it to. They did it to Michael Sherlock, too.
Yes.
That's a point. Co-host of a Non Sequitur show, Caitlin Chloe, and GE went super duper fucking hard on that guy because they didn't like the way he used the term.
Oh yeah.
And and like obviously there's like I followed the whole thing. It was ridiculous. And the whole reason was because they basically didn't want the guy in power, but it was so bad that they supposedly, according to the Atheist and Alliance International, they actually impeded a trial that was going on where someone was going to be an atheist was getting put to death if they lost the trial in another country. And it's like, you're seriously, your word policing is so like out there and so.
And the thing with that word policing there too is the word that was used has a very different meaning in Australia. And Michael Sherlock is from Australia. We use that word here. It's not used in the same way that it's not an offensive term. Well, it can be used as an offensive term, but the way and the context that Michael used that in wasn't offensive. And she absolutely they did hijack it. 100%. I will say this though, and I like Michael. I've spoken to Michael plenty of times. He took it too far. He did, and he kind of brought a lot of what happened on himself. He could have just told them to go away, but he kind of
he didn't handle it well when it happened.
He didn't handle it the way that someone who's running an organization of that size should handle it.
Yeah, right.
I certainly didn't disagree with his sentiment though, because I mean, it's what they did, and the fact, and I can see the frustration because it was hijacking. It was, the greater offence wasn't what was happening to this fellow in Nigeria at the time who was on trial. The greater offence was the use of a word, and that to me was sort of like
that wasn't even being used to attack a person. And Hamad had actually jumped on that one as well. He wrote a couple of articles on it, and so it's one of those things where I've never talked to that guy. I don't know him personally. I don't know anything about him, but I can read his articles and see where there's some problematic stuff that never gets corrected or never gets clarified or inflames problems further. Like they were between him, Casey, and GE specifically, they were putting out like this example of words you can't use no matter where you are. right? And I found out where it came from, where they got this list. It's from a brochure for a group that specifically worked with special needs. And they were like, here's a list of words that in our profession we try to avoid. And you know what words were in there? Dumb, idiot, stupid. You want to know how many of the words that are in there is actually used by headlines that Hamat uses for his articles? Like, I don't care if you want to have this position, but can you at least be consistent about it if you're going to have it?
Yeah, matter of fact, we're gonna dive into that another time. I'm hoping to really kind of have that kind of discussion on the Non Sequitur show if and when we get it back, because I think it's perfect for that kind of channel. But if you guys remember, there was way back when there's been huge controversies over a certain word. I'm not even going to say the word because not that I care, but it is that I think that people are going to take it out of context and run with it. But there's a word that means
talking about rock.
Yes, rock. Yes, rock, stone, boulder. No, there's a word that means. There's a word that means stingy or miserly. It is very phonetically similar to another word that is a slur against black people. They're completely unequivocally unrelated etymologically. However, there have been very educated people that have used that word. And of course, they got shit for it for no reason. I mean, I shouldn't say, of course, they shouldn't have, because it's a completely unrelated word, but people wanted to make hay out of it. They wanted to say, okay, you said this word, which is completely unrelated to the N word, but of course they wanted to make drama out of it. I see that happening day after day. And we will have a discussion on words and this is my belief 100%. It's not saying a word that's the problem. It's how you use a word. And we'll get into that because it's critical. People have that takeaway. People need to say certain words when they're discussing certain words, or at least be able to discuss them, or else how do you avoid I should say, how do you explain to people the stigma that these words have, the force these words have, if you don't tell the people the words that you're discussing? So I have no problem with people using certain words in certain context. And of course, with the whole Kate and Chloe and the godless engineer thing, they did not understand that. Of course, they don't understand a lot of things.
I mean, to be fair, they were really mad about the word engineer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
When you treat a slur the same way you treat the term engineer, I start to question your priorities and how much you actually care.
Totally.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. All right, so let's look at this real quick. Kind of foster list. This was a post by Supreme Deist. Basically says, man rejected the grounds of all being, rejected logos, worshipped the science, and now lives for man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. The inevitable abysm's terminus of woke atheism. Again, I'm not going to get into any of that, but I think what's important is the response that Matt had, and the response that people have made to bad about it. Matt had said, "You're a monumental idiot, getting information from other idiots. That action wasn't because of any of my positions. I'm not only an advocate and ally, I'm dating a trans woman and calling out Dawkins and others. Go learn something so you don't look so fucking stupid." And by the way, I'm not against him using terms like fucking stupid. I do that all the time. Do it. Go for it. I mean,
double standards.
Yeah, the internet, I'm consistent about it, right? So I don't call people out for using those kinds of language because I use it. I'm consistent. As Cheshire pointed out, be consistent. So I have no problem with that, because the internet is not a safe space. It is just not. It is using these types of language to emphasize certain things, and I have no issue with Matt doing that. And of course, Mr. Brass points out, Matt Dillahunty really doesn't have room to talk when he's telling people to act stupid. Steve and I have called him out on philosophy. But when you go into this thread, holy crap!
It's the word idiot too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, the word idiot and dumb have changed, multiple times of what the connotations that they have. But a lot of these people were going in and literally being homophobic. I mean, towards Matt, which is weird. I mean, they're saying, "Oh, like here, so basically you're gay, but don't want to see you're gay." What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
It's because he said he's dating a trans person.
So that doesn't make somebody gay?
I know. I'm just saying that's why.
But these are the type of people out there that are promoting these types of stereotypes. These are causing harm. They are being homophobic. They are being transphobic. And
it looks like some of the America First crowd with Mr. Nicholas. I see that there's a cross there, like a purple cross, and that's usually some of the logos on Twitter that they use. Yeah, it was mentioned that Matt is dating a trans woman who has some spicy videos on many vids, and you could see those and preview those. So I guess that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, she does adult work. So what? I mean, more props to her. I'm very pro.
Oh, I'm not saying it's necessarily a good or a bad thing, but that's probably why they're saying that. But those are like Christian far right trolls. It seems. Yeah, Orthodox Christian. There it is.
I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm reading the
that purple symbol, the Orthodox cross.
Can you guys see the bio there where it says Cristiano Orthodoxo Fala Sobri? Can you guys see that? But yeah, so you're exactly right. That and by the way, I wasn't saying so what to you. I was saying so what about them? Yeah, that this goes into what Thomas and Justin was saying about why there needs to be a pushback to certain types of religion and secularism to get that shit out of mainstream education, things like that, and politics, because this is harmful.
Like, it shouldn't be in the news. But this is almost like what we said earlier. You can be a religious person and be a horrible piece of garbage. Yeah. Because believing in God is not the thing that decides whether you are a horrible piece of garbage or not. Now, it might help you. It might be valuable to you. Being religious, you might put some kind of benefit into your life. Great, good for you, fantastic. But if you start using your religion or your belief system, like atheism, to shit on other people as a group because you don't agree with them, not because they're harming anybody, but because you don't agree with them, maybe you've lost the plot.
Agreed. And they're claiming Matt's transphobic, and yet this is one of those transphobic comments you could possibly imagine.
I love this. I'm sorry.
You're dating a man. What?
I do. I love this. He's getting the exact, for lack of a better term, karma that he deserves for.
He's getting a taste of his own.
I totally agree with that.
For going after people, for going after a lot of women too. By the way, on Twitter, this is just funny.
The karma.
See, I get what you're saying. I think the problem here, though, is really it doesn't affect Matt. I mean, Matt's a public figure. People saying stuff like this, okay, it's probably not going to bother him as much as his partner Arden. And from what I've seen, Arden seems like a decent person.
She's been very nice to me. She has never. I have no ill will toward her whatsoever. She's very been kind to me, and I hope it stays that way. She's never, even though she knows Matt and I don't just agree on a lot of things, she has never came after me. She's never, to my knowledge, said anything negative about me, and I got to respect that.
And I remember when all that stuff happened.
I watched,
to my knowledge. Don't blow this for me, man. Don't spoil my image, man. I got enough.
Yeah, I watched a short clip with Arden on the show, and there was talk about that one shouldn't feel compelled to reveal they're trans if they're dating someone. And if someone doesn't want to have bedroom fun with you, then they're transphobic. So I've just lost a lot of respect.
Oh, I disagree with her wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah,
I think that's a position, right?
I think maybe that as the leader, like Matt, since he's on the board, as a self-professed leader of this atheism plus community, that he wants to be very, very LGBTQ plus friendly, maybe he like Michael Sherlock should not be responding to this the way he is, and he's making it worse and more dangerous for his following.
Yeah, Sherlock, look, I get along with Sherlock. I've never really had any problems with Sherlock, and I think he mishandled, especially for the people.
All I'm doing is applying the people who follow Matt and the people that were part of the group that went after Sherlock, the same standard that they applied to him to Matt.
Yeah, I cannot agree more.
So if I can, I'd love to chime in for 20 seconds about Sherlock. So I agree that from one atheist president executive director to another atheist president executive director, I think that I was in Atheist Alliance International, still technically am. I'm actually still on the advisory board, and we're still technically affiliated with them, even though we barely do anything with AAI. I was there when a lot of that stuff went down, and I agree that Michael Sherlock could have handled it better in a professionalism sense. But one positive thing that we have to take from Sherlock's response here is exactly what I was advising everybody here to do, to not care anymore what the bloggers said. Sherlock was trying to revitalize an international atheist organization that used to have thousands, if not millions of dollars in its budget. A conference that hosted Richard Dawkins when he gave the famous 2007 New Atheism talk in Washington, with people like Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and other numerous atheist famous men and women alike in these circles. To see AI go down there, he was brought on as executive director after the woke went after David Silverman, by the way, as well, in AAI. to try to revitalize that. And he developed a rightful mentality that we can't care what Hammett says anymore. We can't care what PC Mars, and we can't care what asshole Matt Dillahunty says anymore, because he is going to hate all of us in this stream right now anyways.
Yep.
So we should.
I have very specific rules I follow. I go out of my way to make sure the people that I don't want to like me are the ones that don't like me.
That's a good point, though. I mean, none of us are going to be liked by those people because we speak our minds, and we do believe in free thought. We are the supporters of that, and they cannot have that because they have to worry about their image. We all have to have some degree of that, but most of us will do what is right, even if it's contrary to what may be beneficial to us as YouTube creators and things of that nature. Lord knows I have, but
there's a difference between selling out and having tact.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm not really known for having too much tact sometimes. I get that.
This is true. That's usually what I'm for.
But nobody can say that I don't speak my mind. And so, if you continue on this thread, Katie, how do you pronounce her last name? Montemary. I know of her. I think she was. Okay, she was with the ACA, right? Remember?
Yeah. She, I think, her and Arden were doing something on Jimmy Snow's channel. I think. So I would assume that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, Jimmy Snow. I mean, there's no one more credible in the atheist community.
He's
a bastion of knowledge.
You cannot have Matt Dillahunty running around.
I meant fucking idiot.
You cannot have Matt Dillahunty running around who has not said a damn word about Jimmy Snow, is still working with Jimmy Snow on the line, being like, I'm the paragon of virtue. Atheists can't be bad people.
Hey, come on. Look, if there's ever an emissary for atheism that should be anointed Pope as a official spokesperson, it's got to be Jimmy Snow. Come on.
Can he be He's the official Pope of Lacktheism.
His credibility is just unquestionable. I
think Jimmy Snow's about to win an award from the Christian community for his contributions to getting people out of atheism over the last few years.
Oh yeah.
Well done, Jimmy.
Him and Matt should receive a joint award.
Totally. And it's kind of funny because I've warned people about Jimmy for how long and they didn't listen. And now it's like, oh shit, maybe we should have. But anyways, so Katie says, fucking hell, he's openly calling to take away basically all trans rights we have today, spaces, healthcare, legal protections, and even to ban some scientific research, mainstream, what is GCism to an extreme? I don't remember.
Gender critical.
Oh, gender criticalism. Okay, to an extreme. This is so grim. This is referring to Richard Dawkins. Now, I don't want to get into the politicization of women-based issues but on this particular stream. I don't think we need to. But Richard Dawkins is a biologist, a very recognized name. I never really had any issues with the guy. I mean, I think his, take on like his 7 degrees of like atheism and stuff like that, his political or the atheism spectrum is all butchered. But as far as like what he knows about biology, yeah, he's a biologist. He should be recognized as an expert in biology, but he keeps getting
the issue. I guess the issue, and I'll avoid as much of the politics of this as I can. There is some issues with this declaration. There seems to be two extreme sides of this argument. You've got the extreme, what I'd call the anti-trans crowd, and the extreme pro-trans crowd. And the reality is, there's sensible solutions that sit in the middle. It's just you've got both sides just going, it's got to be all my way or nothing, and the other side doing the same, and neither of them are in any way reasonable. So there is some issues, and Dawkins has seemed to jump on this. This is his latest sort of thing. And look, when Dawkins does this, it gets him attention. He knows it gets him attention, and I don't think he's too bothered. But in the UK at the moment, there's a big push towards this movement. So this is.
I haven't read the declaration. I'm not going to speak on it because I know nothing about it.
I did read it.
I've read it too.
There's parts of it that
some of it is
there's parts of it I definitely agree with, but there's parts of it that I sort of go, well, hang on, no, you've taken it a few steps too far.
Yeah, there's
a sensible balance.
There's parts of it that are very poorly worded, at the least. I
think you're being very, very nice to it there.
Well, I'm being nice to him because I think that poor wording is why you're getting extremes on both sides.
So I actually know a little bit of I have a little bit of context too when it comes to this issue. Just a few days ago, I had James Lindsay on our Atheists for Liberty streaming series, We actually delved into this issue quite a lot. And when it comes to this, I read it over as well. I would say the vast majority of a good chunk of my members actually would actually probably agree with a good chunk of what was written in there. I know a few of us here might even have some ideological differences, but we're all quite tolerant of one another. But I told Lindsay that I think overall this was great. But this was more of a positive than a negative, and here's why. For many years, ever since the Dear Muslima letter in 2011, so there were instances in 2011, 2016, 2019, 2021, where there have been notable moments in the atheist movement where he has been blatantly and utterly attacked by the woke crowd in the movement. One of the most famous ones was 2016, when he shared a Sargon of Akkad side to an atheist video comparing woke feminism to Islamism, which I actually found to be quite funny. He actually ended up getting canceled. He got removed as a speaker from the 2016 Nexus Northeast Conference of Science and Skepticism conference. And I would assume that a good chunk of that hatred that came against him actually is why he had a stroke. So there have been plenty of instances where he was apologetic, where he has made retractions to some of his statements to try to soften the blow, to try to make some of these woke people in the atheist community, they have to work with CFI, like him a little more. But I told Lindsay this. I think it's a good thing that he did this, because it shows that he, like I've said, this would be the third time, doesn't care anymore about the woke opposition, doesn't care anymore about getting canceled by these people, because I think he knows now that no matter what, he's going to get hatred from the woke crowd, from the social justice crowd that took over the atheist community. He knows that.
Oh yeah, James has lost all giving a shit about that, and James gets so much crap. And I enjoyed my conversation with James. I think he's a very intelligent. I think he's very articulate. I like what he did with the whole paper thing. I think exposing that was brilliant, and people shit on him for it. But I think what he did was needed, and he doesn't care. He's one of those people, kind of like.
Yeah, I was referring to Dawkins. Lindsay's the same way. I was talking to Lindsay about.
Dawkins same way, yeah.
Dawkins is doing now what you're doing, James Lindsay. He is now not caring about Hammond. He's now not caring about PC. He's now not caring about these people that are going to call him transphobe, sexist, Islamophobe, bigot, whatever. Not to say that there can't ever be criticism from your opposition that could be legitimate, but from these particular people throughout the past several years, we have seen time and time again that you can never please them.
There's an issue with not being able to focus on the topic, right? Mm-hmm. So if people are going to say, oh, Richard Dawkins is transphobic, oh, Matt Dillahunty's a bigot, can you explain why and how? And the thing is that with the number of times that Richard Dawkins has kind of made comments that are kind of about things, those are being used to bolster. Well, see, now that he lashed out at this person over here, you can see why we treated him poorly over here. And it's like, no, that happened after that. You can't retroactively enforce something onto so when you want people to, you want to change Richard Dawkins' mind. Richard Dawkins isn't random bloke B on Twitter, man. Like, he's not out here spewing like trans people shouldn't have rights, trans people aren't people, yada yada. He is I don't think he is ill-willed. I don't think he's malicious. He might not be correct, but that's the discussion that you need to have. If you can't have the discussion because you get too upset, then don't participate.
He's not a turf,
But no, look, I think the problem with what Dawkins is doing is, I mean, essentially he's an 80-year-old professor on Twitter, which that's always going to be an issue to start with. But and I noticed the last time there was a controversy about him. What he did was he posed a question, and that's the kind of question that will be posed in any university. Absolutely. Okay, well, here's the statement. What do we think? Let's discuss. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, doing that on Twitter, all you're going to do is get the tantrum throwers going, you can't say that. He knows that.
He's aware of that. He's not an idiot. He's aware.
No, he's not an idiot. But I mean, just because people are intelligent doesn't always mean they're socially adept. I know some pretty smart people who aren't the best social.
No, I think he did it on purpose. I could be wrong on that. Maybe he is tone deaf, but I think he did it on purpose.
There's a couple of things that he walks a line sometimes. And sometimes I think people misunderstand him. And sometimes I think people are also not very charitable. So they tend to just assume the worst. Now, to be fair, some of the people that are assuming the worst are coming from very bad places. like I said, the reason the ACA is as aggressive as they are in some directions politically is because they're in Texas. Yeah. And Texas has like some serious problems. So to be successful in pushing back on those things, you need to be maybe more aggressive than a more moderate area would consider. But at the same time, you have to understand that if you're going to have a political movement, or if you're going to have a movement about atheism, topics that are based on abortion, no. Why? What the hell does that have to do with anything? Stop trying to change people's political minds about political issues by telling them their God isn't real, because those things are not related. It might be a little bit, but you can talk somebody around that because it doesn't have to be. And on top of that, if you want to go down this route of growing a community or growing people in a direction, you cannot cater to the extremist side of that. Otherwise, you're going to get lost down this hole and become an extremist yourself and basically just end up, you know, being an extremist group.
How many times have I said that?
It's not good.
How many times have I told people, stop catering to the extreme? It'll never work out well for you. Ever, 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 ever. Unless, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, if you want to cater to the extreme where you want to promote your channel and get big and stuff like that, yeah, that might be the case, but you're not going to be doing it, I think, ethically. But you're gonna be fostering a group of people that are just viscerally, mostly led rather than talking about the discussions. You don't see a lot of these people talking about the topics any longer. I mean, Matt and the rest of them, they don't really talk about the topics. It's all about things that are just unrelated to atheism. And these are atheist groups, but they don't talk about atheism.
Steve, what did I tell you was going to happen to Jimmy? What did I tell you was going to happen?
Oh, eventually that his own people would turn on him.
Your own people are going to turn on him and eat him alive. And look what happened. Same thing is currently happening to Matt Dillahunty, which is why Thomas finds it so cathartic and absolutely hilarious that he's getting a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah, and same as, like I said, Richard.
There's a little Schadenfreude there, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, it's cathartic in some ways, but yeah, no disrespect to Chess. That was an easy prediction, I think. But yeah, you're absolutely
that's
right.
not what you didn't even see it. You were like, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I'm like, just watch, just sit down, relax, get your popcorn.
By the way, I see that Paul had turned on a banner. I didn't notice because I'm not looking at the internal. But I don't need that banner on this one. My GoFundMe has nothing to do with this particular topic, and I don't really want to promote it with this particular topic. So if you can remove that banner, I would appreciate it, Paul. I appreciate it. I really do, but it's unrelated to this particular hangout. Paul, by the way, I'm using Paul's second seat, so he has full control over everything. He can stream to my channel at any time.
You literally just complained that you're trash at promoting. That is how you do that.
I am trash at promoting. No, it's true. Oh, whatever. Okay, leave it up then. Are you saying leave? I'm going to defer to Cheshire in this one.
Just leave it. Who cares?
Okay, whatever. All right, so let's continue on.
It's Cheshire's channel, so just do what she says.
She owns 95%. I swear to God, there are people out there, they're absolutely convinced that my AdSense goes to her.
Well, I like to think that Chesh does 96% because she's definitely got to be better than Kyle.
Aww. Wow, Chris, you're being nice.
There wasn't a high bar, but
it was for me because I'm so short.
But look at the names that Kate, Katie, I guess, says in here. She says, any of the atheist crew able to talk about this? And she, of course, she tags Arden, Matt Dillahunty, Arthur Confusion, which is Vi, Ex-Cult Baby, and Hemet, and Vice Rhino. And these people are definitely outspoken in the atheist community, but again, they're all what I would consider to be generally in the woke community. She says, this is next level. The declaration openly calls to remove basically every trans right we have internationally. And again, can't speak upon that. I didn't read it and I don't intend to. But it is, have these people weigh in. Now, I think the more important thing is, having people weigh in that have much more moderate views, because I think it was Thomas that said, or whoever said, was it Chris, that said they read it and thought that there was a middle ground to be had there. Those are the people that you really want to have weighing in on it, because I think those are the people that say, look, we want to look at things objectively on both sides, because all she's doing is asking the people that already have extreme views for the most part.
I actually reached out to Jen from Jed's Little Corner to talk to her about Richard Dawkins' proposal and what's going on, because I read it and I saw some problematic things, and I read it and saw some things that are like, I can see where you're going with this, and then I saw some things that are like, okay. And I think there's a really big, when it comes to particularly within the trans rights stuff. There's extremists that are extreme feminists. There's extremists that are extreme transphobic people, and there are extremists that are extreme trans people. Right? The extreme trans people are the people that are like, if you're not attracted to trans people, you're transphobic, or if you don't sleep with a trans person if they want to, you're transphobic. The extreme feminists are like, trans people are taking away our rights, and then you've got the extreme transphobes who are like, trans people aren't people, right? And so when you've got like this three kind of pronged thing, it's very easy for people to remember that trans rights are not the same as women's like feminist rights, but also they are at the same time. And this is how it gets so wishy-washy and very difficult to sort of suss out, because there's a really big difference between saying, hey, women need to have this right based on these reasons, versus somebody saying trans people shouldn't get this right based on these reasons.
There's a lot of overlap there. There's no question.
Right.
There. But
saying that women should get this rights based on this doesn't exclude trans women. It just might mean that trans women get their rights in a different way, or in a different spot. It would be the same right. It should be the same right.
Yep. Okay, so going on to like what you guys had mentioned before about PZ Myers, I had it already prepared because go figure. PZ Myers, I used to get along with PZ. People know that I've had him on my channel before, and that went south quickly because I got to tell you.
Oh, this is great. This is great. They're turning on Dillahunty. This is
Oh well, and this is, I think, what was the date on this? This is 2019, I think. But I mean, recently he has continued his thing. But PZ Myers, I swear to God, has got to be one of the most non-objective people, most radical, emotionally led people that I've ever had to deal with. He believed bullshit without even remotely trying to verify shit. He didn't care. Absolutely didn't care. And he just sucked off the freaking woke crowd like I've never seen before. And he
didn't suck them off. He is the woke crowd. He was one of the original Borg drones, you could say, of it. He created it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And by the way, I think we have, we talked about the whole original thing where, if you guys remember, that it was PZ that I think kicked actually him off, Matt off the Free Flop blogs. And originally Matt had gone, if you guys know this, you guys know the story, maybe I don't know if the outside do, but Matt Dillahunty was part of this Free Thought blog, and he was part of the board and some other things. And he had been told, this is the story as I remember, if you guys know anything different, please let me know. But he had been told that the Free Thought blogs were not necessarily free thought. And so he went in on a alt account to see firsthand what they were talking about.
This was the Atheism Plus forums, not Free Thought blogs. He had the sock puppet account on the Atheism Plus forums.
Okay, the Atheist Plus. Okay.
It was a username Curious. Curious was the username.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Exactly. It was Atheist. My apologies. It was Atheist Plus blog, and he went in there under a pseudonym, and of course they didn't know it was Matt, and he was raising some in good points, and they shat on him. They basically shat on him, and then blocked that alt. And then he came back on his main account going, wait a minute, hey, look, I am actually, I am Matt Dillahunty here, and this is what people have been telling me seems to be the case. But they booted him because he was an alt.
But people should treat him differently because he's Matt Dillahunty.
Yeah, it was very funny. It was very funny. And then of course, PZ Myers just ran on this huge narrative that ACA and Matt were transphobic. And matter of fact, he points out here, he says, here's something weird. Listen to Matt Dillahunty talk about the recent host who left the ACA. Now, again, I think this was exactly during the whole rationality rules kerfuffle, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? I think so.
This is actually a piece from H.J. Hornbeck, not PZ Myers. I'm looking at it here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
This is from PZ Myers, I think, isn't it?
That one is PZ. Yeah, but the one titled Matt Dillahunty is garbage is from H.J. Hornbeck, who is one of the Atheism Plus people, very active on Twitter, part of the Blockbot. Yeah,
I thought
no problem.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of PZ's commenters, though, for sure. So HJ got a blog on Free Thought blog after being a commenter on PZ's blog.
There's definitely overlap there, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
All right. So he says that there are 4 people who were previously on the Atheist experience who have left the Atheist experience. Some of them have left the ACA to go pursue their own interest and other things. Some of them are still involved in the ACA or taking a break or whatever else. That would be Tracy, Jen, Phil, and John Laricotti. Now, back in the day, I used to listen to the Atheist experience. Okay. Matter of fact, I thought they had pretty good content back then. We're talking the original. We're talking back in the day where they actually, I think, had discussions, even though they weren't really promoting atheism too much, but they were a lot different than what they have now. And the hosts I would listen to were Tracy, Jen, Phil, and John. I've had John up before. Both Jen and Tracy. I don't remember Tracy, but I know Jen said she would come on the show, but then she got soured against me because people were talking shit about me. But I thought Tracy was one of the best hosts they ever had. I mean, it doesn't mean I have to necessarily agree with her. It doesn't mean she was perfect, but she definitely
kept Matt in line.
Absolutely, she did.
She was good when she was on with Matt. I found that when it was a Tracy and Jen show, though, it used to be everything apart from atheism. Like I think they had about 6 months where it was every time it was them, it was just them arguing with theists about abortion issues, and it's just like, well, for me, that wasn't really what I was tuning in. I was tuning in for atheist issues. But whenever it was Tracy or even Jen and Matt, but definitely Tracy and Matt, she really I think she grounded him. I think they were actually a good combination. I really, really do.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I didn't realize we had people even trying to come in here. I'm sorry.
There's nothing.
Actually, I was going to say the person that's trying to come in, I think, looking at some of the stuff that's in the private chat, I don't know if I'd be letting them in. I think it's.
I don't know. Well, Paul can let himself in. I don't know why I let him in. Paul, because Paul let Reds in. I didn't, because Paul has. Well, I'm sorry. So, Paul, you don't want to come in. That's fine.
There's
go ahead.
The thing when it comes to with shows like that, and when you have end up with conversations like that, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just maybe label it a little differently. Like you can have those conversations, do those things, bring out your opinion about whatever abortion rights or whatever thing you want to talk about. That's totally fine. But when you label it as this is a show about the atheist experience, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but not every atheist is an SJW.
Yeah. I don't really want to tune in on a public access show or an online call-in show called The Abortion Experience.
Ew.
I think,
that would be a bit much.
My name is Matt Dillahunty. Today we're going to give you a small camera view of the vaginal canal as a baby comes out. That's something I'd really just love to tune in.
Right. International Icon Class.
It'll be riveting TV.
I won't hold my tongue. Would you like someone?
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. By the way, if you haven't noticed, Australians have lag.
Yeah, well, no, we're actually ahead. Like it's Monday here, it's Sunday for you lot over there. Just in case anyone thinks there's no talking over. There's I think it's about a 1 to 1.5 second delay. So sometimes it'll look like we're talking over each other, but we're not. So it's unfortunately I've had to get used to it with all these Americans. What I was going to say is I don't think there's any problems with if you're an atheist activist or in the atheist community. There's no problems with you having and promoting your political view. We all have our own politics, and certainly I certainly promote my political view and politics at times. But if you don't do it on an atheist show. An atheist show, if you're there representing an atheist organization, that's what you're representing. And I've represented organizations, in the community in the past where, I've had to have meetings or do things with people who hold a vastly different political view to myself. But you know what? You put that aside because that's not what you're there for. You're there for the particular thing you're there for. And I think that's what gets lost a little bit with some of these organizations, I think. And there has been a takeover with a lot of them from extreme elements.
Well, that's why they had individual shows, right? That's why they kind of, they had like seculars, sexual secularism or whatever the hell that panel was.
Yeah, they also had the other one that was like parenting. That was like parenting without religion.
Yeah, they had the...
Yeah,
the parenting one was at least still focused on secularism. If they were going to change their branding a little bit from atheism to secularism, they would have done a lot better for themselves. I still don't think they ought to have gone as far as humanism because, just look at someone like Christy Santiago. That's humanism. What Matt and his crew does is not humanism.
Correct.
In fact, there's a couple of them that have it in their name, and with the way I've seen them treat people, they ought to be ashamed of themselves and they should take it out of their names.
I had friendly fire. Man down. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I literally just banned intellectual iClausm. That was friendly fire. Don't go all nuts on me. Don't become a bit crazy, man. But intellectual
it's too late. The failed beer salesman is already messaging them.
Great. Intellectual iClausm now is going to haunt me for 5,000 freaking years. All right. He says, who
already got a DM
God
in
damn it.
Twitter right now.
God damn it. God may or may not exist, damn it. I won't hold my tongue. Would you like someone who's been dating a trans woman for 20 years to give some insight on the descent into madness in the community? Like, you need to ask? Come on in.
Yeah,
the link is at the above, man. You don't need to even ask for that, dude. Go, anybody like that, come in. This holds 10 people, so
I'll even get out. I would rather hear what they have to say.
We got plenty of room, but okay. So going back to the reprobate spreadsheet here, let me take off this thing here. By the way, doing all this on one monitor is a hell of a lot harder. I got two others, but they're not hooked up. So they say, wait, what about Claire Woolner? She was a former co-host. She left too. She didn't host as often as Tracy or Jen, but she was a board member for 6 years and responsible for both restarting Godless Bitches and starting Parenting Beyond Belief, which I think you were referring to. Claire is no small part of the ACA, so her mission is odd. It's possible Matt wasn't too close to her, but they both hosted AXP at the same time within the last year. When Matt wanted to complain during the live stream, he messaged Claire. Again, I don't know Claire at all. I don't think I've ever spoken to her. I know of her. But there's a lot of people in the ACA that seem to know me that I don't know them, if that makes sense. And I'm not quite sure why they have this issue with me when they've never even spoken with me. But, this whole piece here is basically trying to shit on Matt because he didn't, I guess, mention her name with the rest of them as, somebody who had left the ACA because of the whole, and this was over the whole trans and sports thing, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Let's see, I'm just going to go down to the very bottom because I want to get to the other piece. But he says, I think it's perfectly fair to label someone a garbage person if they repeatedly defend a serial transphobe, referring to Matt, which is just mind-boggling to me. Again, this goes back to that hyperbolic language that you guys were talking about earlier that doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. It divides the community. It harms the atheist community. It harms what the atheist, trying to go for, and the secularist. Look, I'm not promoting atheism. I've never promoted atheism because I'm not an atheist, but I sure stand by secularism, and they are intertwined. So this is just to me, this is doing more damage to the atheist community than what I think Matt could ever do when it comes to trans
I
things.
just don't. There's something ironic about a group of people who lack a belief engaging in evangelicalism about that thing. It's absolutely absurd and makes no sense whatsoever.
William says, Steve, you need a decent YouTuber to run your channel. Who do you think runs it now? Chris and Cheshire do all the work. I just show up.
Every time he shows up to do something, though, he messes it up.
Cheshire is the Steve McRae channel.
Well, in fact, Steve, we'd actually prefer you don't use the name Steve McRae anymore. We've actually got a copyright.
Bad for branding.
Damn it.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to have to report you to Hammett.
Oh God! Don't.
Oh no, Hammett. We've got Hammett on speed dial, don't you?
Yeah, I don't need Hammett after my ass with his, his following. Like I said, I've worked things out just fine with Hammett, and I don't want any beef there whatsoever. I
was going to say, looking back on the trans in sport ACA split from years ago, I wonder, and I'd be genuinely interested to see what people think. If that were to happen today, I think Matt Dillahunty would be on the other side of the argument. I think his conviction.
I think that 100% depends on who it's happening to.
Oh yeah. No, okay, yeah, because, well, I don't know really where he even stood with the whole in regards to rationality rules, but I
supported rationality rules. Which most sane people did.
I stood up for rationality rules as well, and I still do. I think that his video was very well done. I think he made some mistakes. I think he corrected them, which is what we want people to do instead of canceling them. So I don't think anything that he did wrong. Besides,
I don't know if he corrected mistakes. I think he was forced into making retractions.
He was forced into it. Yeah, it was Jimmy Snow who actually made a video about how it was him who coached rationality rules into making that apology.
That was like a 3-part.
Well,
he got a social justice crash course. Basically,
so rationality rules.
So here's how you do the grift.
So rationality rules basically capitulated to the woke crowd, which I don't think he should have done, but whatever.
Yeah.
Should he fix this stuff? Sure. But anyways, he says, as their style, essence of thought. Oh my God. If anybody was as far left radical as you can be, was essence of thought, who basically had the mentality, if you don't agree with us, you're a transphobe and we're not having the discussion, and just shut down all communications. I don't even know how he's not even relevant anymore in this conversation. I don't think, as far as I understand.
I think that there's like a problem if you're going to try and have a group of people that are critical thinkers or like part of about or trying to be about humanism, then you run into problems when you start excising people and othering people. So if you have somebody, you want to talk about trans rights, you have to allow people to be wrong, because if you don't let them be wrong and then discuss, here you're wrong, here's why you're wrong, let me explain it to you. And if you just jump to calling names, you're never going to improve the conversation, you're never going to improve people's education, you're never going to make people any better at understanding your point of view.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more again.
Well,
because I had that same issue. People have been saying to me, hey, Steve, you associate with some people that, you know, you don't agree with, and that have been saying recently some things that are a bit beyond the line that I personally have and they have. And I fully agree that is the case. But I explained to them, look, if I distance myself from everybody who just kind of crosses the line every so often, rather than coach them or help them, or at least give them my input, especially if asked, which I have been many times by certain creators, if they, you know, may have crossed the line, then I'm gonna. What good am I doing? You know, what influence am I having on them? I mean, all these woke people have done is basically formed an echo chamber because they've isolated themselves from any real criticism. The atheist community has done that to me for years, even though it has now, you know, come out that Rationality Rules and Alex O'Connor have realized that by them going to college that, you know, I was correct in a lot of things that I was saying that they were against originally. And so they've changed their positions on it.
Well, you'll notice that those are the people who weren't attacking you, the person.
Exactly. That was my point.
Yeah.
Neither one of them personally attacked me. And both of them I get along with just fine with for that very reason, right? So it wasn't a matter they disagreed with me. People were saying, oh, you disagree with Steve, you're going to get excised. You're going to get, you know, blocked and shit like that. Well, Alex O'Connor and Rationality Rules has disagreed. I've had so many knockdown private conversations with Rationality Rules on that, just not this topic, or not this topic, but I'm on the atheist topic. But you know what? We've always had mutual respect for each other, and that's the key thing.
Yeah, it's sadly the purity testing that, okay, if you're not in lockstep agreement with us on these issues, then we don't want you to be part of the community. We want the community. These people need to be drummed out, and they're not wanting that big tent approach. And people like me, okay, I'm vegetarian, but I'm not going to say, okay, if you eat meat, I want nothing to do with you, you're a horrible human being. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that, because to have a successful movement, to have a successful organization, you're going to have to tolerate some differences. And these differences don't mean you're a bad person, but they're putting the language up to 11, as in this post, like using this language like, oh, you're a transphobe, you're terrible, you're invalidating the experiences of others. Like, it's just so hyperbolic and ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
But how the hell are people ever meant to understand the experiences of others when they get shut down before the conversation can even be had? Like, I'm happy to listen to people, for instance, and hear an opposing point of view, admit if I'm wrong, or even say, you know what, we're not going to agree, but that's okay. There's no problems with that. But when someone just stands there and just yells at you, you're a this, you're a that, you're a bigot, what does that gain? What does that gain?
Yeah.
It's narcissism. It is pure narcissism.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Now, this person who I have a thing. I have a little test of how to detect trolls, right? And of course, if they don't have an avatar,
the trolls are getting lazy, mate.
I know, man.
I'm already seeing a stupid comment. Okay, never mind. I won't even showcase that because
look, we just ignore stupid comments. We don't bring them up. This is a comment that I think is important because it says
you can't work with these woke jerks. You can't.
No. But they said somebody lies from the panel. But here's the thing: I have literally the link above, and anybody can come in. Well, anybody that I know. I don't know this person, so they're not going to be allowed in. But they certainly could be in the live chat explaining.
I bet you do know them.
I bet I do. I bet I do too. But if the point being is that when you make a comment, somebody lies from the panel, and then it'll explain what those lies are. You're at that point. You're no longer, in the discussion, nor should you be in the discussion. You've excised yourself because you haven't given any reasons to even let us think that you have any reason to
to
Yeah.
add anything. Right? So.
Yeah, and that seems characteristic of the people we're talking about. You're asking the question of, well, wouldn't you want to educate these people? But the
Right.
woke have had this meme for a while of, you need to educate yourself. And they just view you as deplorable. They view you as this subhuman entity, that you're really terrible. Even the most mild of people, Christina Hoff Sommers years ago, went to college campuses and people were pulling out air horns, pulling fire alarms, disrupting the event, bringing in musical instruments. And they just wouldn't even have her talk. The heckler's veto is very common with them.
And even if you do educate yourself, they won't accept it anyway. So even if you do say something that is wrong to these people or incorrect to these people, because they believe that they're on a self-righteous journey and have this moral authority over other people. And I think most of us can agree, hey, you shouldn't murder somebody. But interestingly enough, the people who are against abortion believe the exact same thing. You shouldn't murder somebody. And because they view it as abortion, but those people are viewed just as poorly as somebody. But guys, you have the same arguments, you have the same positions, and you're not recognizing how you have no self-awareness about how you're basically a Twitter crusade.
So I'm moving on from the other post because I think this one is more direct on point, dealing with PZ Myers. But again, by the way, trolls confirmed. The atheist community of Austin has drifted out of sync with the free thought blogs. Okay. And this is Ferengula, which is PZ Myers' own blog. Again, as a biological person, hey, look, he's a PhD in biology.
I'll definitely defer biology to him any day of the week. But as everything else, I think is just
ill-informed. I think he's radicalized. I think he's about as woke as you can get. And it's a shame. It's a shame. He's made himself into a laughing stock in the community. Nobody goes out there and says, hey, look, what did PZ Myers have to say about philosophy? What did PZ Myers have to say about some of these things? Nobody cares. Nobody freaking cares. But he says, Tracy Harris, Jen Peoples, and Claire Wilner got on YouTube to discuss the right-hand slide of the atheist community of Austin and their experience of the transphobic takeover of that organization.
You have made notice that the Free Thought blog hosts the Atheist Experience, the blog for the call-in show for the ACA. Although I'm sure the blog isn't a major contributor to their popularity, is primarily driven by YouTube traffic, it does get a good number of comments each week. We are currently discussing dropping the blog from our network in our back channel because it had been drifted into incompatibility with our mission statement. So I'm going to read the mission statement. The mission statement is this.
Free Thought, and I want you to really think about this, if this is actually what they do. Free Thought Blogs is an open platform for free thought writers. We are skeptics and critics of dogma and authoritarianism, and in addition, we recognize that the non-existence of deities entails a greater commitment to human values and in particular an appreciation of human diversity and equality. We are for feminism, against racism, diversity, and inequality. Our network of blogs is designed to encourage independent thinking and individual autonomy. FreeThoughtBlogs.com is a vehicle for vocular secularists and a venue of discussion of their values and interests. And I got to tell you, everything they do to me seems contrary to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That even the reading of that is kind of contradictory to what I know. I mean, we are full of him. I don't know.
Well, let's ask Thomas here. Tom, I mean, you have an atheist organization, and you are a secularist, and you and I, man, we're on a lot of the same pages on the kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What do you maintain, or what do you think about PZ saying this? You know,
it's bull crap.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. Okay, so we can go over it. Okay, so Free Thought Blogs is an open platform for free thought writers. No, not an open platform because you got rid of Thunderfoot. You got rid of a lot of people.
Exactly.
That could go into a bunch of
good
names
point.
as to who's who. We are skeptics and critics of dogma and authoritarianism, despite the fact that he was the male in the Atheism plus Jen McCright train that destroyed the atheist movement. Speaking of authoritarianism. And in addition, we recognize that the non-existence of deities until the greater commitment to human values, and in particular, the appreciation of human diversity and equality. So let's look at human diversity. Let's think about the diversity that's in Free Thought Blogs. Let's think about ideological diversity. Are there any non-woke atheist bloggers? Are there any, center left or
no, they kicked them all out.
Classically liberal atheist bloggers or libertarian or conservative atheist bloggers. No, you can't. You don't have any of that on free thought blogs, and they purged everybody. They're even purging, right? The atheist, whatever the ACA blog. I don't know how old this is, but based on what you said, from free thought blogs as well. And I would argue that the ACA is still pretty woke. So and then they said we are for feminism, against racism. Well, really, racism probably against one particular group of people. For diversity, against inequity. That's the one thing that they are right about, because they don't even care about equality. They care about equity only. Our network of blogs is designed to encourage independent thinking and independent autonomy. Oh, come on, PC.
Bullshit.
Come on. You talk about me all the time, PC. You know,
and I
talk about me and Bogosian and so many of those people. You should talk about other people sometimes, you know, because maybe he just loves me too much. So,
you're just a lovable guy.
He's just a wonderful guy, very fluffy. He looks like Santa.
No, I said you're a lovable guy. He loves you.
Yeah, but it's such a contradiction. So you know, free thought blogs has always, even since 10 years ago, right, been a laughingstock amongst normal, sane, non-woke atheists. At least people that could be out of the closet about opposing this stuff. But it's only getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm just glad that we can enjoy the laugh together to see how much of a contradiction this guy is.
Yeah.
And I'm glad more and more people are waking up to it.
By the way, Brandon, can you just move away from the mic a little bit? But you know what's funny is the words equity and equality mean very different things. And I have said, look, I am for equity. I'm not necessarily for equality, and people take that the wrong way. Oh, Steve's not for equal rights. It's like, that's not what I said. Matter of fact, I'm all for equal rights, but equality is not something that we should be aiming for. That should come out of what is equity, where individuals basically get it by need. That kind of puts everybody on the same playing field on certain things. Now, again, there's no one size fits all, but equality just means that everybody has access to the same things. But unfortunately, certain people need greater access to certain things than other people. That's when the equity comes in. So
it's because they already have access.
Exactly.
So I would slightly disagree with you there, but
you're banned.
But let's even go into that argument. Like, right, let's try to use your argument in a positive way when it comes to free thought blogs, right? When it comes to equity. I actually don't like equity. I like equality of opportunity. I like everybody getting the same access. I'm not saying we need to have this amount of women, this amount of black people, this amount of this amount of LGBT people, whatever. I think that was something that plagued and just also contributed to destroying the atheist community. But,
and you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Even by going with the positive having a quota. Equity, let's talk about equity with free thought blogs, right? Are they using your version of equity in a positive sense? No, they're not even doing that, because then they'd say, okay, we have too many woke feminist bloggers on free thought blogs. Let's contact Thunderfoot, or let's contact Atheists for Liberty, or Justin, or Thomas, or David Silverman, or whoever, and let's get a bunch of non-woke writers to contribute to the blog. Are we
you're not wrong.
No, we aren't.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And again, this is what I was saying, that it really depends on what specifics you're talking about. Sometimes equality would probably be a better way to go. Other times equity, but it really there's a balance between the two.
What you need is it goes generally like this, because it tends to be a pendulum swinging back and forth. The way I kind of visualize it is that sometimes equity needs to be used so that equality can be reached.
That was my initial point. Yeah. I think that it definitely, if you have the equity, it'll help have people have equal access to things. And again, like, look, I think that, even like quotas and stuff like that, I think they do go overboard, but were they needed initially? Yeah, of course, they had to be something to fight Jim Crow laws and systemic racism, all that stuff.
I would argue maybe half a century ago or just a few decades ago. I think that's absolutely true.
It is
I just don't
very,
think now
very
in the year 2021 that we need. I think now we've gone a little overboard in the equity.
It's very much is dependent on where you're looking and in what particular thing you're looking at. So one of the major problems is, like, not to get too far off, but I'll just give a quick example, is the education in America being a huge issue about the district lines that they have drawn, which fund the schools themselves. That is a huge problem in America. And one of the ways you fix that is actually equality and making sure that all the schools get like an equal amount of funding.
Yeah, just real quick.
But because it's an equity problem.
I deleted everybody's wrench. I literally went through and took off all wrenches and only gave them back to a few people, just to limit the sea of blue. That's it. And it was over a period of time as well. So If you're wondering why, some people don't have wrenches any longer, it has nothing to do with anything.
Having actually, realistically, if you have a blog, like, because there's a really big difference if you're going to talk about like equity and inequality, about like rights and political structure and whatever you're talking about. But if you're going to talk about a free thought blog, it's a blog on the internet. Yeah, is it really going to be that difficult for them to find people who are of the same belief but have maybe a different perspective? No. And is it going to be that big of a deal for them to maybe, have a little bit more equality, have a little bit more voices being heard, have a more conservative base? I mean, it doesn't mean let them say whatever they want so they're not like spewing racist bullshit. But I mean, you can have somebody who
you can have standards.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's the paradox of what's it called? Brain. The paradox.
It's the paradox of tolerance, Karl Popper.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. The paradox of tolerance. So, do you want to allow everybody to say everything?
Exactly.
Or not? And you don't want everybody to be able to say everything. But when your standards are so stringent, when it's only people who agree with me are allowed to say anything, you've run into a different problem.
It's free thought so long as. Oh, sorry, there's that lag again. I was just going to say it's free thought and open-mindedness so long as you're agreeing with a certain perspective. Now, they say they're against racism. I would and I don't know, but I would be pretty suspect that let's ask them about what their opinion is on Israel, and we'll see if they hold the same standard there that they do for other places. I suspect.
That's one of the big problems, though, right? Is when you get things like what Richard Dawkins has signed on to or talking about, is there's a really big difference in what is feminism is fighting for in America versus what feminism is fighting for in Iran. These are very different conversations. So if you're signing off on something that's like, hey, this is going to guarantee women's sexual rights in Iran, but it doesn't list trans people, well, are they being transphobic, or is it one step at a time? Like, we're not even at the point where we're even close to talking about trans people. Not that they shouldn't have rights, but we can't even get them to stop killing gay people. Like, come on.
We're very fortunate in the West that we are at the level we are with human rights. But the reality is, most of the world isn't at that level. And you look at places like, Saudi Arabia is a classic example.
Oh my God, you read my mind.
It's a big step that they've just let women drive.
You literally, I don't know how you did it.
Unaccompanied, without. It's like if something were to happen to me and I lived in Saudi Arabia, my 7-year-old son would be in charge of the family. I mean, that's the insanity that they have over there. But you also can't just flip that system overnight from one extreme to the other. It is a gradual process, and we've had a gradual process in the West, and we've got to understand that we can't just force every view on the world as much as we would like to, and as much as human rights.
Well, that would be intolerant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but Chris, I don't know how you did it, because you literally read my mind, because I was just about to say,
it's because we're the same person, Steve.
Yeah, I can fake that accent so well. Or now you try to do an American accent. I can't do an Australian accent. But I was just going to say that if people think that they are being if they don't have like more rights than anyone else in the world. I was just going to say that I have been to other places in the world, including Saudi Arabia was the example I was going to use. Well, let me tell you, we were told and when we went to Saudi Arabia, you're allowed to go off base, but we highly discourage it. Right? Highly discourage it, because once you're off base, you're under their laws, and you don't know. Americans don't understand how strict those laws are over there, right? And you can't say, oh, well, I'm an American citizen, or I'm a military person. They don't give a flying shit.
America has a really big problem, and I think it stems from their educational system as like the biggest factor. There's very much a America and everywhere else. There's either America or not America, and they don't. There is like such little amount of education, or a little bit, like very little understanding. I'm Canadian, and I talk to Chris, who I know is Australian, but I still assume that if I'm talking to somebody online, they're American. And everybody makes that assumption. But if you actually look at the statistics, Reddit is a good example, because Reddit actually checks the statistics of who's posting from where a lot on their website. And who's participating. And so everybody thinks everybody else on Reddit is American, but the majority is like, I think it's Canada and I want to say like Australia, I think are like two of the main contributors to the website.
Well, I remember I put out a video on my channel before the American election, and the video title was "Why I Won't Be Voting for Joe Biden." And it was very simple. I got on and I said, people keep encouraging me to vote for Joe Biden. Here's why I won't be, because I'm not an American. I'm from Australia. Stop sending me messages telling me to vote for Joe Biden. Anyway,
oh my God, I love
comment section. The comment section and the abuse. And I had one person that left this essay on how I must be a horrible, every phobic, every ism. And and for
tell me you didn't watch the
video. And I just wrote underneath, have you watched the video? And then about 5 minutes later, there was a well played, sir. Okay,
dude. Let me tell you that kind of
that's a great experiment.
that kind of white hat trolling, I love. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think all of us have done a little bit of white hat trolling in that regard.
I'll be honest, Americans make it so easy.
It's brilliant. Oh, that was brilliant. Hats off to you, man.
Nice.
One thing I also wanted to quickly mention, we getting back quickly into free thought blogs and also getting back into the discussion of equality is, Pathos pretty much has been taken over on the most part by social justice activists. You have free thought blogs that has obviously been under the control of these people for such a long time. I'll give a plug just in case, Steve, any of your followers would be interested. I'll post it in the comments. We actually have an opinion section on atheistforliberty.org that we're trying to turn into like a new similar to free thought blogs in many respects. And we actually have people on our new newsletter volunteer committee that actually launched last week working on new pieces. And the next piece that we're going to be releasing within the next few days on our website is actually on equality. Justin is actually doing the revisions for it.
Send it.
Yeah, the link is in. You just put it in the live chat.
Yes, well, dude, that one better. Send all the information on Facebook, DM to me, and I'll put that in the video description.
Great.
It would probably be valuable to hook Thomas up with Answers and Reason.
I think they know each other.
I might.
I think I don't remember if you know Joe and them or not.
But anyways, let me wrap this. We'll put a top bow on this and we continue. Transphobes do not belong here since we stand for human diversity and equality, and the ACA has abandoned that principle. We've just begun the discussion with our bloggers, and we've also welcomed input from our readers. No, they don't. So leave comments here. Write fast because we'll probably move fast. And also to Tracy, Jen, and Claire, it's been mentioned that you'd be fully compatible with our values. So if you're looking to a place to blog, let us know. As far as I'm aware, none of them have taken up on that offer.
But I don't know. I don't follow it.
If you guys, by the way, have that information for Answers and Reason, you can link that to me as well.
Yeah.
Is that kind of why Eric and V got kicked off of the Atheist experience? Or I don't know.
Well, that's kind of why we're all kind of exiled from the Atheist experience. Now, I will tell you that there's a fan-made Atheist experience Discord, and I have no issue with them. I just have never had a problem with them. In fact, I was invited on as a guest Q&A speaker. They're the mod X or XI or however you want to pronounce it. He's great over there. So I'm happy to go over to the ACA Discord and have conversations. Very, very cool group of people. But I am banned from like any
the name.
Well, they did. No, they did. They did. They call it the. They don't call it the Atheist Community of Austin Discord or something now. They call it like something completely similar, but not quite.
Right. The Church of Dillahunty, I think, isn't it?
No. Matter of fact, they're not really huge fans.
So they'd be COD, COD.
Oh yes, I like that. The COD group.
Yeah, they're not really huge fans.
COD Squad.
COD Squad.
Yeah, it's very fishy.
But they're willing to listen. They're willing to listen.
Oh, shit. That's it. From now on, they are the COD Squad.
But I just want to make sure that people realize that the ACA Discord is really they allow a lot more free speech than you imagine.
Cy Garth just showed up in this side chat. Hi, Cy. What a comment.
Oh God! Oh gee, dude, that's harsh. That's harsh.
Wow. Savage.
Well, it is true. Okay, look, I'm never going to call the Atheist experience, right? It's just not going to happen. If Matt wanted to ever, have a conversation with me again, he knows where to find me. He's been on my channel. He's well aware of who I am.
But he has been, since he's been told that there's no way to really out-argue my WASP argument and my atheist semantic collapse argument, he hasn't bothered, right? If he's out there going, hey, look, I want challenging arguments. I want theists to call in, or people that want to talk about these topics, but he won't touch anything that I will want to talk about. So what would be the point? And plus, the Atheist Experience show would not be the forum to have these types of discussions. Right. So why would I ever want to call in? He's alienated any of that stuff.
There was something that could have been like the level 2, right? Because you had like the level 1 was a lot of questioning of the religiosity going around. And that was Bill Maher at the time. That was Sam Harris at the time. That was Dawkins and Dennett and Hitchens and Krauss. All of those guys. Then it moved into like this level 2 atheism plus thing, which started hyper focusing on biology for some reason. And part of it, I understand. Like, I understand that there was like a lot of young earth creationism at the time. And so because there was so much of that, there was a reason to push it. But I don't understand why you would focus, one, so heavily on that. And then 2, try to shift the conversation from the problems with fundamentalist religious groups to God doesn't exist, because that was never really the conversation that was happening. It was that, hey, it's okay, and normalizing questioning the church and normalizing that you don't have to believe in God to be a good person. But now you've got fucking Matt Dillahunty, who's like, I'm big atheist man, being a dick to everybody. And if you wanted to give Christians a really good argument for, no, you can't, atheists are shitty people, you got some fucking examples.
Right. I mean, and take, for example, like Sigard, who I get along fantastic. I have the utmost respect for that man. Do I agree with him on his, religion and things of that nature? Absolutely not. But you know what? We respect each other for that. I have never had a negative word to say about that man. And he's never tipped about me. He's a very nice and brilliant dude. I mean, he's got a PhD in chemistry. But
how beneficial would it have been to have not gone in this direction, like unreasonably so, and instead you would be having people going around. You'd have like Seth Andrews, Aaron Raw, Matt Dillahunty, Steve, maybe even Chris, depending on what they wanted to go politically. Where you'd be able to have like Alex O'Connor, and you'd be able to have Rationality Rules, and you'd be able to have these as the panels got larger and atheism became more inclusive rather than ostracizing people.
Right. As a matter of fact, I just watched a little clip. And by the way, intellectual icons.
Be able to do a lot more in other countries that are the ones that a lot of people are trying to help and make change in the fucking first place. Oh no, we gotta look out how this person uses this word over here. Those guys.
Yeah, the funniest thing is like Thomas Sheedy and we couldn't give a shit about
everything.
Thomas and I have never given a shit about the word atheism when it comes to certain things. His organization gives a shit about secularism and things of that nature, which I support. And I'm going to go over and I'll probably read some of this stuff on channel.
And Steve, we can work on stuff too. Like if you ever want to come on our streaming series or whatever to promote,
I would love to.
Feel free.
I'd love to.
Yeah, we're trying to book more people. So
I've been saying, I've had some free time, and I was like, anybody wants to interview me for anything, I'm happy to. I've gotten some people to, but they've been.
I was going to have you on my channel, but I didn't want to get canceled.
Dude, you stream at 4 a.m.
Never let Steve talk about 2 things. Never let him talk about politics, and never let him talk about financial advice.
Dude, wait, Chris and I got a show on Over and Under.
Maybe we can get Steve on with Justin. They could do a financial advice.
Right.
And yes.
No. Never let Steve talk about how to find a good co-host.
When was your last Over Under episode?
It's been a while.
Actually a year ago.
That took so much to produce. You don't even know the effort that went in to try to actually put that. We
do need to do that again.
I love that. It was great. It was a lot of work.
The only reason we had to stop was because I had kids at home because of COVID. But
was it because I blocked you and banned you and
probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I cancelled you a few times after they the woke crowd told me that they would love me.
Cancelling each other.
Yeah, I think we just cancel each other out. But,
exactly.
The point I did want to make, and Thomas, I don't know if your experience is the same, but I'm certainly involved with centre right conservative political organisations. And what I found is I know a lot of people who are atheist or agnostic or whatever variant of secular you want to find, who don't actually want to identify in that way or associate with any with the term because of what they see in the online atheist community. The damage that these people are doing, they're pushing people away. And everything that you hear in the church about, the atheists are this, that, and the other, they're actually proving the point. So especially for people who are coming out of religion and who still might have or might have a certain political mindset, because it's, look, whether people like it or not, half the people in the world are on the right, half the people in the world are on the left. Okay? Exactly. That's the reality. And neither is right or wrong.
The atheist movement, Chris, as you know, is that for a very long time, especially when social justice and wokeism took over the movement, they specifically became even more partisan, to where they would only focus on going to left-wing events and trying to get atheists who happen to be on the left. We have a Congressional Free Thought Caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. The only issue is that every single member of Congress is a Democrat and quite progressive in their views. So one of the things we're doing at Atheists for Liberty, and this is when we premiered, by the way, as well, is that we want to build up a secular right as well. Because the moment you have a secularism and atheism in the United States that also, has a lot of right-wing supporters, boom, if the left is secular and the right becomes secular, there's
exactly.
How good would that be?
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly kind of pie in the sky, probably, but it's it's something to work for, right? It would be great.
But that's not what's important to these people. They're putting their political side and their politics before what they say they're fighting for, which is normalizing atheism.
Right. Let me ask
they want to complain about the religious. One thing the religious are very good at? They're organized and they unite. And as much as they might have their different denominations, when it comes to the political stuff, they get together and they work together. And they must be sitting back looking at our side, just going, have a look at these clowns. They're cancelling each other. It's all these woke on woke crimes. I mean, basically, from what I can see in the American atheist movement, unless you're to the left of Bernie Sanders, you're basically a 1930s German.
It's true.
It makes no sense.
That Justin and I have been called. It's just insane.
Let me ask Thomas a question, because there's 2 points on that. One, look, even though I'm not atheist, I'm all for normalizing the term. Absolutely. I think that, do I think that they are the most persecuted group in America? Hell no. But by any stretch of imagination, they need to lay out that narrative. There's more rights for atheists than any other places in the world. But I'm definitely for normalization of it. Matter of fact, it's kind of funny when people say Steve doesn't want to be labeled an atheist because he doesn't like, on that word because of the stigma and how people may affect. I'm like, dude, I listen to satanic metal. You think I give a flying fuck about being called an atheist? I mean, come on. Let's put things in perspective fucking here, right? And the other thing is, why, if that's his goal, why would you want to alienate the theist? There are theists out there that want secularism as well. They don't, because what happens? They are afraid that their particular brand of religion is not going to be the one promoted the most, and so that's scary. Matter of fact, Sightguard and I
fear that the extremes will take over.
And exactly. Don't you love this, guys? Don't you love it? And I've gotten into so many arguments with so many woke employees of national atheist orgs, where they spam my comment section when I make a thread, like a unifying thread, and I did this in 2016, 17, even bits of 18, but they go, Thomas, that is disgraceful. I would rather team up with a woke progressive theist than ever work with a conservative atheist, or than a conservative atheist. And we get bashed. We at Atheists for Liberty get bashed. Oh my God. Atheists for Liberty, they went to CPAC. They went to the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. They went to Freedom Fest. Oh my God. Oh, so you're allowed to work with theists who agree with your personal politics. Exactly. You're allowed to betray atheism personal field. But when we do it to work together to normalize atheism, secularism in other places, we're the bad guys. We're the people that are automatically doing evil, horrible, bad things. Don't you love that double?
Yeah, and one response I had to Hammett is, don't you want us talking to these people? Perhaps they'll become less evangelical about politics. Perhaps they'll consider the atheists in the room. I mean, years ago, I went into churches to have debates and discussions with pastors. And atheists were like, fantastic. This is great that you're talking to people who disagree with you. This is great that you could provide a new perspective. So now, all of a sudden, what you want us to just have the echo chamber and only speak with people who agree with us, like they do?
Then when you've got people like R and Raw who actually have gone to do this, and they show up at a church to talk to somebody, completely dismiss the point, freak the fuck out and call somebody a liar because Aaron doesn't understand philosophy enough to be able to hold the goddamn conversation.
Oh my
And they're
God.
not going to invite any atheist back, and you're not going to get anywhere with the conversation.
Oh yeah. Tons of streams where they had to mute him because he was just screaming at people and like the mic was crackling.
Yeah.
It was
not a stream, it's a stream. He's gone into churches.
Yeah, well, a couple things.
There's something to say about tact, and there's something to say about when you are in someone's house, follow their rules at least a little bit, unless they do something extremely
So real quick, Justin, you know, it is absolutely a shame that you even have to point that out. It should be so apparent to everybody, right? I mean, it's just unimaginable that people do not understand how simple of a concept that really is. This is what I built my channel on, was having these discussions with people that I don't agree with, right? But I was alienated for that. Super chat real quick, Con. Thank you, buddy. He says, you have a good heart, Steve. My 2 cents. Do not address transgender issues with biology on an AC Discord. No, I haven't, by the way. That's not the way we talk about. You'll be able to transphobe fast. Yeah, that's probably true.
That's probably true.
Don't forget the winky face.
The winky face, yes. Justin actually says Slayer isn't satanic either, and that Ghost isn't satanic. Ghost is all.
That light on for me when you come back.
well, like a ghost, as I understand it, is more like a parody. They use like the religious image, but they'll put the cross back. But it's a lot different than like say something like Dimmu Borgir or Slayer, right?
Yeah,
it's a different thing.
Exactly. And I just like that kind of music, but Ghost, I gotta tell you, is one of the best.
This is what the audience wants to know, by the way. Yes.
Well, we go on tangents, but Ghost is one of the most underrated bands in history.
I like it.
Can I hop in before Intellectual comes in? Because I really just want to let him talk for a little while, because I think he's got a lot to say. But I just wanted to point out that I looked into an atheist organization that says and claims to be associated with all of like a lot of this atheist group that we're talking about. Their headquarters is a 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Oh my God. You still need to get in more detail. You guys have no idea.
Awesome.
Is a P.O. box inside a 7-Eleven in British Columbia that is sharing a P.O. box with other businesses that this guy runs.
Yep. Total shame.
This would be the same.
Who doesn't care or says shit about it, and who just brushed off any kind of criticism about this? Gee, I wonder whom.
This is the same political. This is the same atheist. It's killing me.
Hey, I know. We got too much delay, so I'm gonna moderate this real quick so we can move through. Chris, Thomas, and then I want to hear Iconoclasm has a full after.
I was really.
The mic's not working, or something went wrong.
This is the same atheist organization that whose president blocked and banned me from everything because I said that I thought he had a bit of a hang up with Steve and just needed to just not make that the focus, and then I got like pages of
diatribe nonsense.
Saying demanding that I retract my comment. I'm just like, no, that's my opinion.
You got your free Slurpee first.
You know what's funny is none of those people would ever be able to have these types of conversations that we're having now, and that's the distinction. They're not capable of it. But Thomas, go ahead, and then I really do want to hear.
The only defense I guess I'd have for whatever this organization is, I only have one atheist organization. If it's like an international org, there's one that comes to mind. At least I think when it comes to British Columbia. To defend them in only one regard, setting up a national atheist org is, it does take work. And I can understand if an org doesn't have the money of, say, the Freedom from Religion Foundation or American Atheists or the American Humanist Association, where they can't have a building. Like, the only reason American Atheists even has its headquarters building in Cranford is because a former member who I think was a doctor or a dentist donated the building. And that's how they got their headquarters. The next time they opened their Washington, D.C. office in 2016 was a WeWork.
Wow.
Their DC office is a WeWork. So it does cost a lot of money, but a 7-Eleven?
I fully agree with you. If they had only listed this as their mailing address, the problem is they can't list it as a business address because this is not a nonprofit. They behave and look like and present as if they're a nonprofit. They are not a
It's a
nonprofit.
business.
All right, I'll tell you what, and then we'll get to iconoclasm. I would definitely donate.
We can talk about it later. We can talk about it later.
I will definitely donate to have the Ark Encounter turn into an atheist headquarters.
Hey, you want to? If somebody donates enough money, we'll make it AFL headquarters.
I'm fine. I mean, I'm serious. Okay, everybody, I want to kind of like just kind of mute or whatever, and just iconoclasm. You have the full floor for as long as you need it until you turn it over. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And first, Thomas, I want to say I'm swooning a little bit and tight budget right now as a military retiree, but some of my Christmas gift card money will be joining AFL. So, you know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And if you ever want to DM me or we can chat, sometime after, my DMs are always open to people.
Cool. Thank you. So this isn't going to be a slam the woke or anything. There's some actual very real considerations that have come from my experience dating transgendered women. And it comes down to very simply, there is no national mandate. There is no national system of this is how we treat people with this condition. And we need to be honest, it's a condition. It is a form of body dysmorphia, says the guy with bulimia that was a problem in the military. Body dysmorphia is body dysmorphia, and that doesn't mean that what you feel isn't real and that you won't be your best self in the body you envision. But sometimes the body we envision is not healthy, and somebody had to point that out to me. And I had to point that out to my very best friend. He got sucked down the rabbit hole of the wokeism and gender affirmation. And honestly, he just simply had untreated diabetes. And I was the one person that said, dude, I love you to death. You're not a chick. If you were a chick, you would have shaved that fucking ugly beard off. And he had to have somebody tell him that bluntly. And that was also part of the problem because, again, we don't have a nationalized or international best practices for helping people who identify as being transgender. And go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, I should have muted.
Where that comes in is that where I was living in Utah, there's one standard for legal paperwork, another standard for treatment, and yet another standard for public assisted treatment. And every state in the union pretty much has the same, we do it our way. And it was a real problem for her because she moved out to Maryland, to Utah, and holding her hand, it was a gut-wrenching experience as she was trying to start just a checking account at a local credit union because her legal name versus the person she presented as totally different. And I don't have fond memories of her, but my heart is still pulled out for her at that experience, at knowing that that's a semi-daily occurrence for her. And in large, my libertarian self says because we don't give people the ability to self-identify. That's the basis of our nation is I self-identify as this. I will pursue this. You will not get in my way of being my best person as long as I'm not trampling any other person. And as far back as 2001, first woman I got involved with, it was an online relationship back before every online relationship was automatically toxic. And we talked a lot, and I got an inside view beyond the young, I'm 20 something, I've got a fetish here. No, this is a real person. There are real experiences behind this. And unfortunately, the fetish market gets fed because people have to make money to go through these processes that are sometimes it used to be prohibitive just to apply to. And it can be very problematic because, again, I keep going back to we don't have national best practices. And because we don't have national best practices, people who have legitimate grievances saying, I am this, you will at least let me be treated as such and not just push me off, make me go through thousands of dollars of endocrinological panels out of my own pocket before I qualify for therapy that you as a state mandate, before I can begin hormone therapy. But I have to be living as a, I'm a dock worker. I have to live as a woman for 2 years before I can start hormones to know if that's actually right for me or not, when other people in the line have said I can, but there's a check the box practice here that'll get me my license lost. Now that's how it used to be. Today, you can walk into a clinic, say I identify as transgender. They do the check the box questionnaire, and 2 hours later you have a hormone panel and you have 6 months of hormones and you're walking out the goddamn door. And the problem is you may just have diabetes and not have a friend who will tell you, brother, this is not right. You need to reevaluate this.
So what? Okay, so I think the takeaway from, if I'm not mistaken, is that these are highly complex issues, and that there is a lot of medical things that are involved in these types of dysphoria, these types of gender identifications, these types
of nuance.
Oh, absolutely, and
Yep.
it might be hard to even have best practices because it's so complicated. But what I think happens is because you have someone like yourself who is intricately familiar with this stuff, who's dating a trans woman, that is involved in this stuff, and it seems to me like you'd be probably the person who is excluded from these conversations, because you probably wouldn't just put lock, step, and barrel with people like Essence of Thought, because they're not capable of having those types of conversations. Of what you just said would be so beyond their level to comprehend.
You have to be able to understand that different people in different places in the world, let alone a country as large as America is, are going to have very, very, very different experiences. Hell, South Ontario versus North Ontario is vastly different, not only politically, but basically in the way they view things, because Southern Ontario has places like Niagara Falls and Toronto, which are huge trading hubs, which end up with a lot of diversity. Whereas when you start getting into more rural areas, you get less and less and less diversity. So you're looking to make people change their minds about something they didn't have an opinion on in the first place, that they've never experienced.
Yes, but I didn't really bottom line it very well. There are legitimate grievances.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean you. Sorry, I was saying.
I realized I didn't bottom line it very well, which is there are very, very genuine grievances for people saying, I need this therapy, I need help, and you're just making me, in Utah, it's ridiculous what people have to go through, whereas in California, like I said, walk in, walk out, and people are getting lost in the middle, and we're not having both reasonable best practices and letting people practice medicine, which is each individual person has an individual case, and we need to empower physicians again to make decisions with their patients, not for their patients.
Yeah, do you think that do you think that Utah is, because of the high degree of religiosity there, that it differs there than somewhere like in California, which is much more tolerant? And that, by the way, I could not agree with you more, possibly, that doctors should be the ones that make these kinds of decisions, because they've been educated to do so. We've given them the empowerment to. And then when they say, well, the doctor recommends it, but we think we know more than the doctors, then what good is that? We've then taken away the empowerment we've given them.
Getting in the way of people's medical stuff.
Right, exactly.
Weird.
It's counterproductive, to say the least. But go ahead. Do you think Utah is like that because of the religiosity?
Yes, and because of that, it opens the door to the woke grievance culture and the grievance feeders, I want to call them. And
sorry.
That's where I see the wokeism entering into these communities. That I've dated very, very conservative trans women who just couldn't stand the wokeism, and I've dated very, very progressive people who said, you say self-identify, but you also say medical treatment. And I'm like, yeah, because you can self-identify and society can be courteous to you and treat you that way. but that doesn't mean you get to walk into the locker room, compete in the Olympics against others, and that goes to whatever direction, because female fencers against male fencers at the Olympic level, they're going to get fucked up. It doesn't matter who has what gender identity expression or whatever, and that's just in fencing.
Well, the powerlifting is going to be the extreme.
There's like a huge. The thing is that what people don't understand is there's a really big difference between equality for everybody being able to, like, nobody's going to be barred, and the Olympics are such a, if you're going to go between person A and person B, and person A and person B have grown up at about the same rate, at about the same level, at about the same area, there's no reason, like, intercity, intramural sports that anybody ought to be left out. Play on whatever the fuck team you want to play on. Nobody cares. But when you get onto this high competitive level, where a micron of like an inch or a bit of leg length, micron of like hardness of a bone, like, it's such a small measurement that will give you huge differences, because they're at such an extreme tier level of performance that no, it doesn't work like that.
So basically, Cheshire, you shouldn't ever become a pole vaulter, because
well, you would be surprised.
I want to also point out that the equality that you mentioned, by the way, especially when it comes to this issue, the Olympics, is the exact equality that I support.
Yeah.
Right.
That's something I've always been on board with.
There's like a whole other issue too, right?
Speaking
with
of gaps that affect women, though, right? Transgender sports.
Those are the conversations
gap that does affect women now day by day in high schools and middle schools across the country.
But those are the conversations that get shut down. I mean, those are the ones on Twitter that just you can't have. You cannot have them. It leads to a complete clusterfuck. There's a lot of people that I respect on both sides of the issue, but the Twitter's just not going to be a place to have those. It's fine. I mean, for them to do it, don't get me wrong. I mean, we all do it, but you have to recognize that is not going to have any really kind of sincere. It's not going to have any change on anything. It's not for that.
It's a place to build up your base.
Yeah.
Right. When I make a controversial, statement on Twitter, I do that to galvanize and to energize my own supporters and supporters of Atheists for Liberty. Right. Yeah. That's really what you're there to do. Matt Dillahunty and I are definitely not going to be able. Number one, we're not going to be able to convince one another at all. But if we ever had a chance, Twitter would definitely not be that place whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's fine to use Twitter for that. Twitter box, I've always said, is my playground as far as having those conversations, because I test out argumentations, I test out ideas, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. We are getting at about the 2.5 hour mark, however, so I'm going to start wrapping it up a little bit. This has been. I
gotta get going in like 6 minutes. We got an AFL discussion night to host on Discord for all the members.
Awesome. Well, like I said, send me all that information. I will definitely put it in the video description, and I'm definitely gonna be in touch with you on that. And I would love to be a guest on your channel, or some just stream, whatever the topic.
And by the way, if you don't mind, I'll do one quick plug. If anybody wants to continue chatting with myself, I don't know if Justin's going to have time to be there, but if anybody's interested in signing up for an AFL membership, once you do, I'll be checking the emails throughout the night. And if people want to join in the AFL Discord server, I'll email you a link to join once you become a member. And anybody watching here can join in the discussion there. Our theme tonight, by the way, is woke predictions for 2022. So it's going to be quite a thrilling discussion tonight.
But are you offering slushy?
I wish. I do have
the local 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
I do have the local 7-Eleven, yeah, right down the street.
Headquarters 7-Eleven.
No, Chester,
and then we'll give away free slushies for everyone. Equity.
Jesse, you should have said
by race and gender.
You should have asked, but have you been in a debate before?
But have you been in a debate?
I've just sent you a message. I've just leaked you a message on Twitter as well, Thomas.
Right. I'll follow up.
Put all your contact information, even though I have it all, but put it in. Just give it to me on a DM, and so I can just kind of cut and paste.
Sure.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Atheistforliberty.org. All the information's there.
Yeah, and I want to put up some special shouts to people I haven't seen for a while. I saw S.J. Thomason come by, so hi to her. I saw Slam RN come by, so hi to her. I saw Gary Colorado Biker come by, so hello to him, and a bunch of other names that I haven't seen for a while. And I do want to do more of these types of topics. I probably will do them on Sundays that I'm off, Sunday's a good day for them. And I really appreciate if you like these kind of conversations, become a patron of this channel. I really appreciate that. It has been obviously tough all over, and I understand, but Patreon is kind of my bread and butter right now. Of course, I have my GoFundMe, but that's for my legal stuff, which I'm not going to get into. But yeah, but also, I do support these things so heartily. Please go check out Thomas's organization, become a member, support him on that kind of stuff, because everything I've seen from him, I'm just in line with. So that to me should be the big takeaway. And it's just what I pointed out. It doesn't matter whether God exists or not. It fucking doesn't matter to those things. It's just not those conversations are great, and I love those as well, and I'll be doing them. But it doesn't have any effect on the shit that goes on in reality. It doesn't have any effect on what goes on in politics. It doesn't affect the things that Iconoclasm has had to deal with and the people he's dated have to deal with. That I think is a big takeaway. So let's kind of wrap this up. We're going to kind of do this systematically for say what you got to say and get out kind of stuff, I guess, maybe, or just mute. I don't care. But Iconoclasm, do you want to finish off on anything?
Just at the same time that I was starting to experience stuff in high school and see this community, my eyes were opened. We had somebody who came back from a GSA leadership conference in San Francisco, and they were explaining that intersectionality was going to be the new thing and how everything was going to go. And they explained the poor trans community feel like F's among F's, and you can figure that out. I don't want to get you struck.
That's fine. No, I get it.
Then we went through the intersectional framework of privilege, and I was standing there in my junior ROTC uniform, looking back at my friends every time I had to take a step, and all I could see was that I was getting further and further and further away from them, and there was this immeasurable gulf opening between us, and suddenly I was that. I was the F among Fs in that room. And that's what intersectionality has done to my community from the time I was 16.
Yeah, and there's a whole oh my God, there's so many discussions to be had about intersectionality. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that as well. Absolutely, intersectionality. Oh man, I will do my damnedest to get James back on to have those types of discussions, because man, does he have a lot to add when it comes
to that. If you need help, by the way, Steve, with that.
Yeah, I'll go through you. I mean, I know James. We definitely know each other. He's been on my show before. But if you could kind of maybe facilitate that at due time, not for a while, but yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of James. I know he gets a lot of shit, and he is a grenade thrower to some degree, but I will definitely, I have a lot of respect for the guy. Even Peter Boghossian, I think that if he would have just kind of stuck with certain things. Yeah, we're going off topic. I know. Mm-hmm. I know. See, this is how long Justin and I have been together on that. Okay, let's wrap it up. Justin, did you want to add something?
Oh no, that's about it. Just check out atheistforliberty.org, and if people want to follow me on Twitter, it's @JustinVakula, and we're also on Twitter with Atheists for Liberty.
Are you subscribed to my channel?
Point in real quick. We've got a Sunday discussion night coming up in actually 1 minute. It's being hosted by our membership director. If anybody wants to sign up for a membership right now on atheistforliberty.org, I'll be checking the emails and I'll be responding to them, giving you the Discord link.
All right, go do that. I'm gonna wrap it up.
I'm gonna put it in I'm gonna put it in the live chat.
Chester is going to take care of that, and I'll add anything else you send me, Thomas. So we're going to wrap it up because I want people to go over and check that out
by all means. So, Chester, you don't have anything to add besides, hey, go watch your shit, and you've got.
I am doing an entire month of charity outreach charity/outreach. I am not talking about any of this nonsense over my own channel. The entirety of this month, and I've been doing a really good job about it. So if you're interested in learning about, these are not donation drives. These are not fundraisers. You're not pressured into doing anything or supporting any of these things. It's just to help raise awareness. So if you want to come on by and see that, the next one is on Tuesday. So hopefully I'll see you guys there for that. Other than that, I'm just a shitlord on the internet. So I'm sick of the online atheist community. They're a bunch of fucking assholes.
Yeah. And by the way, Richie says, very lively debate. This was not a debate, this was a discussion, but I get what you mean. But Chris, you know what, resident Chris, you've been very quiet, which is unusual. But hi, by the way. You got something you want to add real quick, my friend?
Not really. There was a few things I wanted to say throughout, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow that was going on.
Dude, you know you always come on. You know you can. Plus, we all like to hear your voice. You got one of the greatest accents, better than Chris's. So,
I mean, Chris is from the East States, so.
Oh, East versus West. I get it. So
actually, I'm Central.
Oh, okay.
I can't help it if I've got that advantage in life. I was born here. It's not my fault.
Yeah. But what do you got for Chris? You got anything coming up?
Yeah. Look, Friday night six pack. So I call it Friday night for me. For those of you on the disadvantaged side of the world, it'll be Friday morning. So I think it's 11 o'clock my time. I think it's 7 a.m. on a Eastern time on a Friday. It's normally just a discussion panel. The theory behind the show was discuss important topics, solve the problems of the world while having a couple of drinks. We tend to just have a bit of a laugh, and it's a pretty good sort of crew. So yeah,
I love you guys over there.
We've got a deep dive into NXIVM. I think we've got part 4 coming up. Jay, who's my co-host, he's looking after that, which is my Wednesday night, which will be Wednesday morning in the US. Apart from that, look, I'm on Twitter. I'm always open to say hello to people. Always interested in having a conversation, whether I agree with you or not. And but apart from that, thanks for not cancelling me for being on with Steve.
You're very welcome, my friend. Oh, we had somebody came in, but unfortunately, we don't have time for that. So I can't really add you. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching this. Please leave your comments in the comment description. Like I said, Chemo says, was James Lindsley the one who on Not Sequitur discussed the grievance studies? Yes, he was very much part of that. So go check that out on Not Sequitur after I get it back. And like I said, please think about becoming a Patreon and go head over to watch Thomas's stuff, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks for having me on. Nice to meet you all. The impromptu
Thanks,
discussion.
everyone.
Bye, guys.